that it can dictate to us. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free in our lifetime.
The UN's Food Agency says people trapped in the Sudanese city of Al-Fashir for more than a year are facing starvation with no sign of an end to the siege by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The UN's Children's Agency today warned that malnutrition was rife in Sudan, with many children affected. The BBC's Barbara Platt-Asher reports.
The warning from the World Food Programme comes as local activists have already begun reporting deaths by starvation in Al-Fashir. The UN agency said it hadn't been able to deliver food to the city by road for more than a year. It didn't name the party responsible, but the RSF has cut trade routes and blocked supply lines. WFP cited reports that people are eating animal fodder and food waste to try to survive. The agency said it had trucks loaded with food and nutrition assistance ready to go if it got guarantees of safe passage.
Recapping the top story, Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says technical challenges at the Matimba power station in Lephala, Limpopo were responsible for the last two bouts of load shedding. I'm Undulambana for SAFM News. Headlines at 3:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, 2025-26 Betway Premiership season officially launched. Dolphins beef up coaching staff for new season, and Winter Games organisers says it's all systems go to host the tournament. I'll have more on this at 3:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, there we are. Let's get moving with the National Pulse. My name's Ashraf Garda. As always, it's a case of, my engagement with you, yours with myself. So welcome to the show. And of course, for the next 3 hours, we cover some of the biggest issues in the country, issues around the world that clearly does move the pulse, the national pulse, and very often the international pulse as well. So thank you for joining us, right? And in the course of the 3 hours, you know the story. You can call in live when we open the lines. You can also WhatsApp us, text or voice note, and you have the third option, as always, which is to tweet us along. And you can just tweet using the hashtag the National Pulse, and then when you do that, just tag SAFM Radio and certainly tag myself as well. So all of that are available. We have lots to talk about. There's a ruling around Kenny Kuneni with and the issue around the cockroach story of Julius Malema. We'll touch on that, in fact, right away. We'll also talk about developments regarding France and the African continent in terms of where the French are regarding relics that they've captured from African countries, often enough illegally so, and what happens there in terms of where they're going to go next with that. But there are other issues in South Africa, developments locally that we need to touch on as well. So all of that here on the National Pulse.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All. We honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
I'm looking at, the president of the country been speaking, or the president of the ANC in this case, Ramaphosa, saying that the ANC to engage more parties regarding the GNU. What that really means, we're going to find out. But let's now talk about a big issue, one of the biggest issues of the day. The Gauteng High Court has ordered the Patriotic Alliance's suspended deputy president, in this case Kenny Kuneni, to apologize to the Economic Freedom Fighters leader Julius Malema. And why? Well, for calling him a cockroach. Now, the court has ruled that the word cockroach has harmful connotations to it and is internationally recognized as hateful of those to whom it is directed to, right? So the EFF clearly has a position on this. Let's get their thoughts about it. The EFF MP and spokesperson here is Mazwi Bloze. I appreciate your time, as always, on the National Pulse.
Thank you, Afra, for having us, and good afternoon to you and your listeners at home.
Okay. Of course, your party has responded to this ruling and you've issued a statement. Give us the gist of your position as the EFF regarding the ruling.
No, basically, Ashraf, it's just unfortunate that the people of South Africa has given us in governance people who are, ex-convicts who then come with prison language and they want to integrate that into our South African politics as political speech, which then shows that they lack the understanding between hate speech and, political rhetoric, which is acceptable with of the constitution of this country. So it was really unfortunate that these words were uttered against our president. We then had to take this matter to court, which then the court has really vindicated the EFF and has asked that the deputy president of the Patriotic Alliance actually apologize to the Economic Freedom Fight us. So it's basically a lesson. We are teaching them a lesson. So that they actually acknowledge and know exactly what is acceptable in terms of hate speeches within the political realm and what is then regarded as hate speech.
Right. Now, clearly, you're right. The court has certainly vindicated the position of your party, right? Why, however, did you feel there was a need to do just that? I mean, take it to court, meaning that there has been, well, let's put it this way, lots of insulting that takes place amongst many political parties, not just using the word cockroach, using different words and phrases just about every day.
No, but this is exactly what I'm saying, Ashraf. That the political arena is one that is welcoming to political speech. It's really an arena that is protected within the confines of the constitution, and this is why when I started that, it's really unfortunate that the people of South Africa actually went out and voted for ex-convicts who they really did not understand the distinguish or the difference between political speech and what hate speech is. Because even though we've got the freedom of speech in South Africa, but that only happens within the confines of the law. You can then not then dehumanize people and call them all sorts of names and want to equivalate that to political speech or freedom of speech or freedom of expressions. So there is a constitution of this country that guides all of us in terms of the limits, in terms of what we can say and attribute to each other. So for us, this was really just to teach them a lesson, because we know very well that these are ex-convicts who just come from prison, and just by luck they find themselves in government, and now they really don't know what they are doing.
I mean, but look,
and this is why we had to take them to court to teach them a lesson.
Okay.
And that lesson has then been taught that there are certain boundaries that are allowed within the freedom of speech.
But Mazwe, your point about the ex-convicts, I mean, the truth is that person is allowed to, in terms of the law, stand for public office. That's why he's been in public office, and the same with many others. The point I want to make is there are people who are not convicts or ex-convicts who also blurt out, words and phrases that are deeply humiliating to other people that may seem outside of what is acceptable norm. I'm just trying to make the difference. It's not just because a person is an ex-convict.
No, what I'm saying, Ashraf, is that when that is attributed to us, especially the president of the EFF, then we take it a step further to educate those who would have attributed those utterances to us. So for instance, if someone attributes something to you, it's basically up to you as an individual to then exercise your right in terms of what has been said to you. So we cannot come. So if someone was to say something dehumanizing to Ashraf, I can't come into your defense. It is up to you to then go and educate and take that up within the confines of the law. So any dehumanizing speech that will come towards the EFF and especially our president, we will take it upon ourselves to educate that person, take them to court so that they learn a lesson never to say that thing again to another person. So that's what the lesson was here, is for us that, and then I'm raising that thing as an ex-convict to say, yes, within it's allowed. That's why they find themselves in public office. But their history then tells us that they lack that basic understanding between what the Constitution allows in terms of freedom of expression and what hate speech is. And this for them would then be a lesson for them to then learn from this, so that in going forward, even if they continue to be in public office, but they know the distinguish between what the political speeches is allowed, or what the Constitution allows within the country for political speeches, and what hate speech is.
Right,
so that's what the lesson was here.
Okay, now, I mean, the Judge Stuart Wilson, and I'm referencing the piece, found a reasonable observer, probably would be someone like myself, would have understood Kuneni's references to Malema during that interview when he used the word cockroach, and then drew in the reference to how that word could well incite others, right, regarding, and gave the example of the Rwandan example, and I've certainly been there. I was aware just how pronouncements made, I think even on radio with the talk show host at that time, and then it gained currency, and before you knew it, people who were neighbors were turned against each other. So the possibility of incitement is great. Now, why I ask you that question is this, that I know the High Court has already ruled, or the Con Court has ruled, in fact, on the issue of, kill the Boer, kill the farmer, right? But doesn't that fall into, coming to the same play? I know what the law has said, but I'm saying even then, can we not draw lessons from that too? So if the cockroach one is thrown out, why would, for example, the kill the Boer, kill the farmer be acceptable, even if the law accepts it, because it could also be interpreted by different people in a different way?
But that's necessarily the point, Ashraf. We are not governed by our own feelings. We are governed by the Constitution. So anything that is accepted within the confines of the Constitution is not illegal. So we utter the words kill the Boer, kill the farmer. Those that felt offended by that took us to court. And the court has vindicated us that this is not hate speech, because we are governed by the courts of this country. So again, as you are saying correctly so, Kenny Kunene was an MMC of transport in Johannesburg. So his position of authority actually is then influential to say that the things that he articulates can then be articulated by others. So once he speaks about calling other people cockroaches, other people will see them that as acceptable. And that's why we took it to court, so that the court can make a ruling on this matter to say that this thing is not acceptable, so therefore no one else is allowed to say it, because if you say it, you are breaking the law. Yeah. For us as the EFF, when we sing kill the Boer, kill the farmer, the court has given a historical background to that and has said that this thing does not incite violence. There's no evidence that it has incited violence. It's just a political speech which has history, which has a background, and it's acceptable within the political realm. And that's exactly the point we are trying to make.
Yeah, I think it's a point taken, and we know what the Con Court has ruled already on kill the Boer. The point I'm making, therefore, is going forward, right? One is the law, and you're quite right about what you've said about the law, but the other is the sense of how people interpret. So what I'm saying, this could be a case of the EFF winning this battle, and maybe rightfully so, but then in future there could be further references be made to this ruling and look at other examples. So we've already discussed the kill the Boer, I got that, but there's been examples of the EFF themselves, your party labelling the South African President Ramaphosa as Mr. Big Nose in vernacular, and calling former President Zuma as well, I think it's called Makhanda Khanda, which really means mocking his head in some way or the other. So what I'm saying, does this not open the door now to other rulings like this for the future too?
No, Ashraf, like I'm saying, for us, in the political realm, as I said, is protected for political speech and political and freedom of speech and all of that. So all I'm saying is that if then there's utterances that are articulated against a particular individual, and that person takes offense to that, you've got the constitutional right to take that to court, so that the court can make that determination. And again, it's not necessarily about how I feel. You can say something to me that may be offensive to me, and I take you to the court, and the court says, no, well, you might feel offended by this thing, but in terms of the law, there's really nothing wrong about it. So hence I'm saying is that we cannot then just make assumptions to say the EFF has said this, the EFF has said that. Does it not open for A, B, and C? The EFF has never uttered anything that is unlawful, that is dehumanizing, that is hateful, or that is hate speech. We don't do that. Everything that we speak about or that we say is protected within the Constitution, is within the confines of the law, and we make sure that we are law-abiding citizens. If we say something to someone and they feel offended, they can take us to court. We'll vindicate that issue. If we lose that battle in court and we ask to apologize or we ask to pay whatever, we will do that, and then we'll stop uttering those words. But as in the past 12 years, the EFF has never been found guilty of hate speech. The EFF has never been found of inciting violence. The EFF has always practiced and spoken within the confines of the law, and that's what the point.
All right, so in this case, the EFF has spoken. Appreciate your time, Mazwe Blozi, the EFF MP, and in fact, so has the Gauteng High Court. And just to confirm what has happened already, the Gauteng High Court ruling, or that the Patriotic Alliance's deputy president, suspended one, Kenny Kunene at that. He needs to apologize to the EFF's leader, Julius Malema, for calling him a cockroach, and the court ruling that it's harmful, the use of the word cockroach, and then gave the example in particular of how it was used to incite not just violence, but in fact spark of an entire genocide in Rwanda, just from one or two pronouncements. And before you knew it, people took it very, very literally. So that's it. You've heard the voice of the EFF's spokesperson on this issue. Well, what about you? And I'm particularly interested, and I know what the law says, but there's also the law, and there's just what is normal practice in terms of how we understand things. So does this open up further to other pronouncements not being acceptable, and maybe people who are aggrieved or political parties aggrieved may well take these issues to court down the line and leave even less space for let's call it using fancy words in the name of just knocking out other political parties, where you say, I don't really mean the person's a cockroach. Of course, I meant something else. You know that. Does this not open that up to that as well? Think about it. You can call in, right? So how do you do that? 086 000 2032, WhatsApp, text or voice note 0614 104 107. And voice notes 30 seconds each, but tweet as well. Hashtag the National Pulse when you tag SFM Radio and tag me, Ashraf Garda. Looking forward to your comments on all those platforms. Well, this is the National Pulse.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply. With misinformation and disinformation around us all the time, where can we turn to for news and information that is not fake? Radio, of course, your number one trusted source of reliable and truthful news and information. For over 3 decades, we have been a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct, and we pride ourselves as a trusted source of information. Say no to false news and disinformation that circulates online. Radio, keeping it real and fighting fake since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters.
Right, this message is brought to you by Ituba, the operator of the National Lottery. Don't miss out on the Powerball jackpot. Estimated at, mind-blowing, 124 million rands. And this is for tonight, of course, right? So dare to dream big by playing Powerball for the estimated 124 million rand jackpot today. For your chance at multi-millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.coza, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
And you got that. You can listen to us on radio. You can listen to us via live streaming audio. And then visually, if you follow us on the X or Twitter platform, and on Facebook, and also visually on YouTube. I mean, all the bases covered. Need I add in, download the SABC Plus app as well, and you can listen to us live streaming there. I mean, I do that. You all have those options, right? And of course, you can catch the podcast and then share that with your friends and have that as the base of a debate over supper or over the weekend, whenever, right? Okay, your thoughts. Janus in Cape Town, go for it. Hello.
Hi, Ashraf. Listen, the increase of the price of the everyday products, when you get increase of your salary 7-8%, it's the maximum you can get. But you know what's happening in this interview? I'm very seldom going to my wife to the shop to buy something, but when I'm going there, I'm shocked. Now we're going to have this increase of the price, I think, because of the Americans, of the Trump, 30%. And I was in I visited my son in Dubai 2-3 years ago, and he was there. And I was shocked that, for instance, our veggies and our fruits, compared to the dollars, were much cheaper than even woolly here. So I hope that maybe with this increase of the price, and so that products are like a fruit or whatever going to be cheaper because they are looking for the to sell this product. They cannot do it in USA. So let's see what's going to happen. But I'm very unhappy with this, what's happening at the moment with our prices. Diesel is going up. When the diesel is going up, of course, that the people who selling the products and in the shops, they're going to have a chance to tell us that okay, diesel is going up, so we're going to increase again and again and again. When they're going to stop? When you're going to have a decrease of the people are suffering? What do you think?
Okay, well, obviously, what do I think? How can I think it's a good thing? I think people are struggling. There's no question about it, Janus. In fact, I had coffee with someone today, and we just spoke about that, when people are malnourished, undernourished, hungry, starving, how do you expect them to survive? I mean, it's just crazy. And that's the poorest of the poor. Then you get, the working class and the middle class, and even they can't afford it anymore. But the prices are just ridiculous. There just seems to be no way to stem this flood of rising prices, and that has an impact on every one of us. So, Janus, your point is taken with sadness, I should add, right? Nomas in Woodbank, hello. Nomas, hello, yeah. Now, we'll get to Nomas in a moment. Right, let's pick up on some of the issues we've just been talking about. Here's one.
Hello, Ashraf Gada. Yes, I think this trying to kill the boy, kill the farmer. It doesn't sit well with you at all. You always make reference of it. And that guy of EFF just told you that the law doesn't have feelings. It goes with the law. That's what the law says, not what the law feels. Thank you.
Okay, doesn't sit well with you, if I could hear that. Right, further comments on the EFF.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Lennon Khwedi. The problem with EFF is that it is good when it's done by them, and when it's done by somebody else, it's a total no, and it's an insult for whatever reason. And people always, especially the EFF, they wouldn't accept that being an ex-convict doesn't mean that each and every time when you do something, you're doing it because you were an convict. That is the other position whereby I see that most of the time they don't respect people who were in prison before and have come out of prison and become better persons. Lennon,
point taken, and that's the point I made to him. Like, he referenced it a few times. Like, what is that got to do with the other? Because there are people who are not convicts who are also guilty of inciting, hatred and other things as well, right? So, point taken.
Hi, Ashraf. The investigation unit, like the ad hoc committee that has been established right now to investigate the national security from the allegation of Nkwanas, they were not supposed to elect someone from the ANC. Why they didn't elect someone from the DA or another opposition party who's a chairperson of the committee to investigate? Because ANC always elect their own colleague to investigate against their own colleague. That is why sometimes the judicial system is captured or is in corruption. My name is Les.
Okay, got that, Les. In fact, we're going to play some sound around that issue, and that comes up just after 4:00. So listen out for that. Right, Nomsa in Woodbank, you've got some thoughts about a school. Go for it.
Yes, hello, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed. Right, your point?
I'm a parent at a school. It's called Hlalani Kahle Primary School in Ackerville in Woodbank.
Okay.
Ashraf, I would like for the Department of Education or here at Woodbank to look at that school. The teachers don't attend classes. It's a primary school. The principal is never there. 3, right now I'm waiting for my son. They don't inform us. I've just heard that they've stayed behind for the choir. What choir? We have no idea. They don't inform us about anything that happens in that school.
Okay.
Yeah. The toilets are dirty. They are filthy. I would like, please, it's a small school, it's got a small number of pupils, but it's unmanageable. The principal is, I don't know what kind of a person it is. What I think is, this is because their kids, the teachers' children, don't attend schools at the location, so they don't care about our children's education.
Well, I mean, they should care if they're teaching. That's what they're paid to do. I mean, that's the bottom line to it. They're teaching. They're
paid to do that, but they don't do it.
Past. Okay. I'll tell you what, I mean, it sounds horrible. And you said the teachers are never there. You said the teachers are absent. The principal is never there. Let me put you back on to chat to Keys, my producer. Let's see. I mean, we need to follow the story up. So let's do that. If you can give the details to Keys, and then we can follow it up. All right, Nomsa? Thank you. Sure, man. Teachers are absent. Principal is never around. What do you do? Seriously, put them for detention? Just think about it.
Ashraf and the SFM listener. Ashraf, mind you, Mkhwana's joining EFF, wearing the red, parrot, wearing the overalls, and start insulting the people. He's going to lose the status within a second. The moment he just say he's joining the EFF, he will be insulted by the people. Whatever is done, and then it will just vanishing and so on. He rather even joining TA so that he can apply the law. Up to so far, we will have him for free and so on and so on. Partly here at the Kurlini.
Okay, got that. Yeah. All right. Let me get you to reflect on that. So we've had the conversation. I mean, there's the issue of poverty that's been brought up. There's also been the issue of, clearly the issue of the Gauteng High Court ruling against Kenny Kunene regarding the use of the word cockroach, which I think is a big story indeed. There are other global issues we'll cover. There's also big domestic issues in our country. All of that forms the issues that moves the national pulse. So you tell me, what moves the pulse today? 3:30. Here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Minister of Electricity, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, has conducted an oversight inspection visit at both Medupi and Matimba power stations in Lephalale, Limpopo. References to the language used by gangs has again come into focus in the Western Cape High Court during the ongoing trial in the murder of alleged international drug smuggler Brian Weinstein. And the Western Cape High Court has stood down in the interdict application of Cape Union Mart and subsidiaries against 7 respondents, including the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, the PSC. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A very good afternoon. We kick it off in Durban with a couple of breakdowns on the highways causing delays. One on the N2 South running into Spaghetti Junction. That traffic queue heavy right back through to Inanda Road. And if you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, station your truck as you come on to Key Edge just after Shongweni. That section of the N3 backs up fairly heavily as well. Joburg, some pressure on the N3 North going up from Heldenace interchange through Galulis onto the N12 East. The roadworks on the R21 southbound today approaching the airport just by Pomona Road. So if you're leaving Pretoria en route for those flight connections, you will hit some traffic from just south of the R25 Bobsfontein exit down through towards the Pomona Works area. That is quite heavy. And Cape Town today, the M5 from Maitland, slow going down towards the Kromboom Road exit. And looks like a bit of an issue for motorists coming out of town. The N1 queuing up over the elevated freeway towards the Marine Drive exit. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Tumi, the countdown to the Premiership clearly has started.
Absolutely. The 2025 Betway Premiership season has officially been launched today, with all eyes set to see which team will hit the ground running this weekend. 6 fixtures get the ball rolling on Saturday. And just looking at some selected fixtures, Chippa United host Mamelodi Sundowns, Newbies Orbit College away to Amazulu, and Orlando Pirates at home against Kukune United. And talking about Kukune United, head coach Eric Tinkler says that they'll be aiming to finish with 50 points. This is after finishing with 46 points last season and 4th on the table.
Let's see. Let's see. I think, yes, ultimately the last couple of seasons, the team that's finished 3rd has actually finished 48, 49 points. Hopefully this season 50 points will allow us to finish 3rd. But what's important is that we've moved in the right direction. Right next to you.
Then Sunday sees two fixtures with Tears Galaxy hosting newly promoted Durban City and a much anticipated clash between Stellenbosch FC versus Kaizer Chiefs. And Stelli's coach Steve Barker says that they expect a tough clash, especially knowing that Chiefs have a double on them from last season.
But yeah, it's always tough. Great start to the season to play, an iconic team like Chiefs. We know the fans will come out in numbers to support both of the teams. They've had a good pre-season, nice and sharp, but obviously big expectations upon Kaizer Chiefs this season. So yeah, we can't wait for Sunday to arrive and looking forward to the game.
Elsewhere, former Arsenal footballer Thomas Partey has been granted conditional bail. This is after appearing in court on rape and sexual assault charges. The 5 charges relate to 3 women, and the offences are reported to have taken place between 2021 and 2022. However, Partey has denied all charges against him. In cricket, the Dolphins have beefed up their coaching staff for both the men's and women's sides. This is ahead of the 2025-26 season. The Dolphins bid farewell to Mdudu Zimbata, who took up the head coach role at Northern Cape, and Devon van Onselen, who has received an opportunity in Japan. Henry Davids has been appointed as assistant coach for the upcoming season, and Pranasan Apana and Jared Westhazen will continue to fill the roles of general support for the Dolphins' men's side. On the women's side of things, Angelique Thai's successful support team remains unchanged, with Sandile Kalusa continuing as assistant coach and Shafika Pillay fulfilling a dual role as a batting lead and team manager. In rugby, Lions coach Mziwake Nkosi and captain Yaku Fusari says that they are encouraged by their team's improved performance at the breakdown, a key focus area. This is after their opening round win over the Sharks. The Johannesburg outfit followed that up with a commanding 40-19 bonus point victory over the Western Province at Ellis Park at the weekend, and Nkosi praised the squad's work rate, while Fusari pointed out to better communication, especially among the backs, as a major factor behind their dominance.
Positive for me is there's a few areas we wanted to improve. We sat here last week and said our breakdown wasn't good enough. Luckily we fixed that, which gives us that quick ball to play that expensive game we want to play. And with our new string, or whatever you want to call it, the way we attack, I found myself a bit more on the outside. And most of those were actually from turnover ball. So just good. I get good comms from the backs to tell me not to run a dummy line, rather keep your feet, pin and pass. It's just a good team effort. Actually, there's nothing individual really about it. That's part of our identity.
Right then, on to tennis. Elena Rybakina and Canadian teen Victoria Mboko advanced to a WTA Canadian Open semi-final matchup with the wins in the Montreal hard court event. Rybakina was leading 6-1 and 2-1 when Ukraine's Marta Kostek retired in the second set with a wrist injury, while Mboko, on the other hand, beat Spain's Jessica Manera 6-4 and 6-2 by taking the final 6 games to reach her first WTA 1000 semi-final in pursuit of her first trip to a WTA final. Then in Olympic news, Winter Olympic organizer says that they are well on course for the start of the event. The Olympic opening ceremony is on the 6th of February, though curling kicks off the action 2 days earlier, while the Paralympics open a month later on the 6th of March, though curling again breaks the ice 2 days beforehand. So Ashraf, today's talk is all things about the new season, the Betway Premiership. And a lot of people looking forward to seeing how their respective teams are going to start their leagues. Obviously, it's starting this Saturday.
So big question, what's happened with that Cape Town City story?
Cape Town City have basically lost. However, the last time anything was said about that story is that they are looking to appeal.
Okay, but there's like 5... When does the league start? I mean, like this weekend, right? So there's fixtures.
Yeah, but remember, they did, when it comes to the punishment for that player from Maruma Gallants, he was just, the team was just fined 200,000.
Okay, so no points
No
deducted.
points deducted.
So according to you, that story's over unless they appeal, and that could go on for months again. Yeah. And, maybe they lose an appeal and go to the High Court and Con Court. I mean, that's another whole conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so City are out, the league is started without them.
Yes.
Okay. Some people are
Definitely.
angry, but fine. Let's move on.
I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
September 5 is Casual Day. Time to get your Casual Day sticker and gear in support of persons with disabilities. Looking beyond the label, your contribution makes a tangible impact. Visit www.ncpd.org.za. Many thanks from the National Council of and for Persons with Disabilities.
This is an SABC-supported initiative.
When you're uploading massive files, does it really matter what your internet's download speed is? With business class internet, you get a connection that's as fast going up as it is down. Your company deserves business class internet because just reboot the router isn't a business strategy. Find reliability at vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Okay, you need to consider this. This message is brought to you by Ituba, the operator of the National Lottery. Don't miss out on the Powerball jackpot, estimated at a mind-blowing 124 million rands. It's on for tonight. So don't delay. Dare to dream big by playing Powerball for the estimated 124 million rand jackpot. For your chance at multi-millions, buy your ticket now in store or via the nationallottery.coza, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
I can tell you now, so many people want to reference the issue of the EFF killed the farmer, killed the boer in relation to the Gauteng High Court order ruling that Kenny Kuneni must apologize to Julius Malema for using the word cockroach. It's an interesting one indeed, and we'll play that out, I'm sure, throughout the show because there's big lessons to be learned from that, right? Now, what I'll do is we're going to talk about France in a moment because the French have introduced a bill that'll make it easier for the country to return cultural objects that were taken away or stolen from African countries during the period, the colonization period. Now, we'll chat to Prof. Pitika Ntuli in a moment, but first, just listen to this.
The Traore principle. We do not wait for thieves to blink. We do not need another study to tell us what was stolen. The blood knows, the soil remembers. The ancestors are not confused. Captain Traore does not ask if France is ready. He knows Africa is. He does not wait for September votes while our grandmothers weep before glass cases in Perry. What they call an artifact, we call evidence. What they call heritage, we call our breath, our gods, our grieving, our joy. Traore teaches return is not charity, it is justice delayed, becoming justice denied unless we take back the rhythm. Return the drum, yes, but also return the silence you forced upon it. Return the mask, but first remove your gaze that made it hollow. We do not need a decree to know the sacred. The sacred does not apply for permits, it applies pressure, and it returns with thunder in its feet. Traore speak and Burkina Faso echoes. We will not dance in your timelines, we will not mourn politely, we will not wait for thieves to blink. France says, we are opening the door, but Africa replies, we are no longer knocking.
Okay, Prof. Pitika Ntuli, as you heard, that's his voice by the voice note, referring to a large degree the leader of Burkina Faso. So now we know about the French plans that'll make it easier for them to return cultural objects taken away during the period of colonization. Lots to consider from all of this. So let's now speak to Professor Pitika Ntuli. Appreciate your time, as always, on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, and to the listeners.
All right. So, I mean, I've heard your thoughts about, Ibrahima Traore, and maybe even more so now, your thoughts then in terms of the French position to make it easier to return what were effectively stolen property back to those that actually own it. What do you make of it?
Well, this is not, 10 years ago, they said the same thing, that they were going to return the things, but it became still kind of, colonial lies. And also setting up some conditions, which are the works that were taken. What should we, do? If they would say to us that we are going to have members of, say, the African Union that are elected to go there to supervise what is happening. But words are like that. Colonialism always makes promises but breaks them with relish at breakfast.
So do you think that, are you saying that this is just words where there's a bill, right, that will be hopefully, well, for them, voted on and passed in a few weeks' time? You're saying it's just words which will actually make it easier. That means it'll cut out some of the red tape to return what doesn't belong to them. And you're suggesting it's just words and not real, not the truth?
They've got hundreds and hundreds of those words. The only thing that we remember they returned was a mask or a few, kind of, tokenistic, gestures. But what is very important is that these works, being kept away, from there, they've got a very good reason, which I can understand, because if these works get back to Africa, then it is going to make the Africans, we the Africans, go back to see where we are and where we have lost, the path, and how creativity, survived. The tragedy of these works that are actually, absent, you can feel it, even if they didn't take much. From South Africa. Here, for us, artworks just do not mean anything because they are not money.
Okay. What then would you think would be the motive for the French to not just pronounce in a press conference, but to actually introduce a bill and then get the bill voted on into an act of law if they don't intend to carry it out? Why would they go to all that route? Because simply doing that raises already the expectation that they would have to return things.
Yeah, but what we should do, we should at least hope that what they are doing, they are meaning it. But one of the reasons is that France has been the country that always set up its army whenever there's a problem, in Africa. They controlled Africa. But now that we are in a situation in which we are, and many former French countries are rebelling, therefore France must realize that without them and their wealth and whatever they are going to lose. They may then pass that bill. But even if they pass that bill, the question matter is, what are they going to return?
What about, so in that context, what then do you've already pronounced on it to a degree with regarding the voice note we played about Ibrahim Traore. Just your thoughts in terms of the position he's taken. He's expelled the French just about everywhere and asserting, maybe the self-esteem of the Burkinabe. But is it the right approach? Because you look at short-term and you look at long-term sustainability. Is he doing the right thing?
He is absolutely doing the right thing. He's doing the thing that we should be doing in South Africa, a thing that we should be doing, everywhere. Our founding fathers, the Sekou Tourés, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Nyereres, they dreamed not of Africa, of nation states. Because if a nation states, a colonial power uses one state against another and corrupt even our own economy, our leaders needed a civilizational state with one language, one African high command, and one economy.
But I mean, that's not going to happen, is it? I mean, at the moment, countries can't even decide on themselves, even within their own countries. I mean, we can think of many examples like that.
Yeah, but at the same time, then, if the African Union, follows what the founding fathers in a way, then we will be in a position in which we can travel in Africa without borders.
But I'm saying, but I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying practically, the African Union is unable to grapple with some of the most significant and some of the most mundane issues that they can't grapple with on a daily basis. That's why you have issues, for example, like the problems in the Sudan and southern Sudan. You have a military, you could even debate Burkina Faso, where in fact there's been a coup there, then Egypt, effectively, where the elected leader was toppled, and I can think of many others. I mean, where's the African Union helped and assisted and enabled there was the rule of law in all those countries?
That's why then we have got to understand that Captain Amos Raoul's call. Now, if you are a Christian, you know that Christ was just one man, and today it's got billions of people. Who knows how many Africans will Traore and how many other leaders. You look at Namibia, the women president, you look at Ghana, there are a number of powerful things that are actually rising in Africa, and the younger the leaders that we elect, then we have got to start reversing the tide of our historical betrayals.
Okay. We're just the last thing on this year. What are your thoughts? And this is not about artifacts, but I've always felt that when South Africa's negotiated settlement was agreed upon, right? One of the issues is South Africa's debt, foreign debt that was not written off, and therefore democratic South Africa had to pay for apartheid debt. What do you make of that?
I mean, that is absolutely terrible. That's where, again, the betrayal came. If we pursued the RDP, reconstruction and development, you would have discussed it straight. What are we reconstructing? What are we developing? Who is developing this art? How? Where? And where are the timelines? Where do we monitor? This. So we are in Africa caused in what is coloniality, that template of oppression, that we continue what the colonial masters have done, because it is not about politics, not about culture, it's not about heritage, not about people with the ruling people. It is about profit.
Okay. Let's leave it at that. Professor Pitika Ntuli is always setting the agenda, really, on the National Pulse. Not just talking about the French position, about whether it's just words, but also South Africa and the African Union and Africa as a continent as well. And I would think, as he has expressed his opinion, you have yours. Agree with him, challenge him, disagree, agree, debate. Turn it upside down if you like. 086 000 2032. By the way, let's celebrate a winner of sorts who's off to Real Madrid. And I'm talking about a kid, not an adult, but the implications would still be the same. It's for real.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, so how is this for a winning story of sorts? Just 8 years old. We're going to talk about that 8-year-old footballer from Cape Town who's certainly made an impression of sorts, right? And we'll get to that in just a moment. But let me tell you this, and this message is brought to you by Ituba, the operator of the National Lottery. Don't miss out on the Powerball jackpot, estimated at a mind-blowing 124 million rand this Tuesday. Don't delay. It's tonight, of course. Dare to dream big by playing Powerball for the estimated 124 million rand jackpot today for your chance at multi-millions. Buy your ticket now, in-store, on the nationallottery.coza, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial star 120 star 7529 hash. All those options available to you. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, let's then get to the issue of what I talked about, a celebration of sorts, isn't it, right? So here's the story. There's a young girl, she's 8 years old. Atara Goodhart is her name. Remember that name because she's from Ocean View in Cape Town, and she's been awarded a full sponsorship to join the Real Madrid Foundation educational football program and then continue her formal schooling as well at the Generation Schools Imhoff, right? So what does all this mean? I mean, Real Madrid, this is a story need I say it, it is for real. Jevron Epstein is with me, the president of the Real Madrid Foundation Educational Football Program here in South Africa. Jevron, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Much appreciated. I'll tell you what, I believe, let me start with first things first. There's a voice note that we have of the young girl in question, Atara Goodhart, and this is what she said. All right, I'll tell you what we do. Let's get to that in just a moment. Jevron, maybe we'll play the soundbite in a moment. Let's get back to you first, right? Tell us about this good news story.
Yeah, so it's, we launched the foundation here earlier this year, and the foundation is a specific program targeting youth with phenomenal ability, trained on the Real Madrid way and methodology of football, and linked to an educational outcome that is unfortunately and fortunately more important than football itself, which is a solid education. And Atara is just one of those individuals that stood out. She's played in the boys team her whole life. She's a phenomenal talent, and we had to approach her and say, would you join our school? And she decided to, so we raised some funds so that she could join our school all the way through to degree.
Let's then talk about how, in fact, this was set up. I mean, what's the process? How do you get to a situation where Atara Goodhart is the one chosen?
So we have many scouts in the community. Our football program stretches from Real Madrid, from the foundation, all the way through to Skakuna United, which is in the PSL. So we have talent scouts all over, and we look for phenomenal talent. We incubate them in the Real Madrid philosophy and methodology, and then we put them into our full stream circuit of soccer all the way into a PSL club.
So in a case like this, you incubate them in South Africa. That means there's already an early identification made of the talent of that person. I would take it, therefore, it would not be the only person we're talking about, right?
No, we've searched far and wide for phenomenal talent. We then house the phenomenal talent. We look after them. We provide them with mental well-being coaches, physiotherapy, all the way through to specializing in body metrics. We educate them, and then we prepare them for a global stage.
So, tell me more then about Atara. I mean, we need to know more about her. Whatever you think we need to know about her and her talent. Tell me more.
So, Atara comes from Ocean View, and in terms of her lifestyle and growing up, she's one of those individuals that hasn't had much, but gives everything on the field. And there's a hunger in her to actually compete. And I think for us, that was the key driver. This want to win and this aggression that she plays with on the field, she leaves it all there. And I think that you can't teach somebody. So that hunger that she has to actually compete was the first sign. And then obviously her footwork, her ball skills, her coordination, her ability to read the game, her peripheral vision, all of those things counted towards her. We then provided her with an induction day at the school to see where her academics stood. And she's strong on and off the field. So a phenomenal candidate that has huge potential.
Well, so tell us then what happens to her. So you mentioned the educational aspect and the club side. So for the purpose of now, let's focus on the football side. So she gets to the Real Madrid club itself in Spain, and then what happens next?
So how it works is we have our coaches in South Africa come from Real Madrid. So we have coaches here in South Africa that are from the foundation in Madrid. She's provided with the same sort of training, the skill sets that she would acquire in Spain. She is incubated in our space here in South Africa, and then she has a clear path route into South African top-tier football. What we then do is we send a team across to something called the Global Challenge in Madrid, and we have a couple of warm-up games in the UK at some very well-known clubs, and it's an opportunity for her to showcase herself. Our primary goal is for her to be educated, so we're not trying to send talent at the age of 9 years old or 8 years old to Europe or the UK. We specifically incubate her, focus on her skill sets, get her name out there so people are aware of her, and then we keep all of those clubs up to date in terms of her progression. But our goal is for these individuals who join our foundation to graduate with a degree and then make a decision on the basis of, are they going to become professional sports stars, or are they going to continue in what their passion is, but in an educational space?
Okay, got that. So clarity, no sunny Spain, not for now, at least. Anyway, right? For her. Now, having said that, in terms of the pathway you speak about, so how realistic is that pathway? Because I would think, yes, I mean, often we talk about Real Madrid. I mean, we tend to know that the male version of the team, which is a global club anyway, right? But you think the same parallel would be for the female, the ladies club, that the ultimate pathway would be for her to actually play for that club, right? So have you had that pipeline with other South Africans before, or would this be the first one?
So in terms of how Real Madrid work as an academy, so they say that 0.01% of their academy players who are based in Madrid, in the Real Madrid city, will actually play for Real Madrid. But 99.09% of them, or 0.9% of them, will be professional footballers. So the process of Real Madrid isn't to incubate people to play for them, but to become professional footballers. And I think that's the key. If you isolate your focus on playing for one club, you miss the point of becoming a professional footballer. So our viewpoint in South Africa is we've recently just announced our relationship with Skokuna United, a top-tier team in the PSL, number 4 on the log, and we are opening up their specific academy in Johannesburg in January next year. That'll be for 144 players, so 72 females, 72 males. So her opportunities are endless. She could either play for a local club in the Western Cape, she could move up to Johannesburg and play in a stream that goes into a PSL team, or she has the ability to go abroad. Our process in terms of how we view football is not to create a narrowed vision with a one-stop location, but to provide multiple opportunities and exit points for her as a professional footballer.
Okay, God, that sounds very, very exciting indeed. So, Javron Epstein, appreciate your time. The president of the Real Madrid Foundation Educational Football Program. This is now based in South Africa. And of course, we're referring to Atara Goodhart, this 8-year-old who's now been given a full sponsorship to join the foundation here in the country with a pathway to great success. So what does she think about it?
I'm enjoying it very much. All my new friends is attending there, and they also playing for Rising Stars Football Club. I really feel proud of myself, thankful for everyone that helped me have this opportunity. I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling excited, and I'm also feeling great that I'm going to be joining the new school. I love playing soccer, no matter what.
That gives you a smile. I love playing soccer no matter what. I'm so happy and I'm so excited. And when she says she's so happy and excited, well, I feel so happy and excited. Can you sort of hear the smile in my face? Are you feeling the same way? I hope you are, because that's the type of winning stories we want to hear. Right, let's get to the news now. Here's on Della Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, concerns over the decline of natural diamond industry and electricity minister on an oversight visit to power stations in Limpopo. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. Petroleum and Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe has expressed concern over the decline of the country's natural diamond industry. Mantashe met with industry stakeholders to discuss a strategic response to lab-produced diamonds. He says South Africa has fallen from being one of the world's top 5 diamond producers to 6th spot. Mantashe is proposing a universal accord that would see companies contribute 1% of their annual turnover to a major marketing campaign for natural diamonds.
The natural diamonds are under siege in many ways. The market is depressed, the price of diamond is down, and lab-grown diamonds are eating in our lunch. We are coming here with an initiative which is globally, which we discussed in Luanda, of aggressive marketing of natural diamonds. Make the distinction between a natural diamond and a lab-grown diamond. If producers pay 1% of their turnover in marketing their product, it doesn't need to go to Parliament. But we can develop a policy that covers them.
The Minister of Electricity, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, has conducted an oversight inspection, visited both Medupi and Madimba power stations in Lephalale, Limpopo. This comes as Unit 4 of the Medupi power station returns to the national grid following an explosion in 2021. Ramokgopa says it is now running at 82% capacity. He says an additional 800 megawatts is now being fed into the national grid. The Western Cape High Court has stood down the interdict application of Cape Union Mart and subsidiaries against 7 respondents, including the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. The retail chain has approached the court seeking relief from what it says is harassment of its stores. It says the interdict also seeks to stop the PSC from associating it and its group of stores with the State of Israel. Earlier, a group of protesters belonging to Palestine Solidarity Campaign gathered outside the High Court for a picket. They are accusing the clothing group of stores of supporting Israel. The PSC's Professor Usuf Chikde.
The matter was stood down because there were matters from the Kravitz camp which they didn't address. We asked for a disclosure of and the basis for of the evidence of what they're providing. We couldn't agree up to now in terms of an order and in terms of how to proceed with the matter. But the parties spoke. The matter has been stood down to allow both parties to prepare a draft order.
Governments around the world have been urged to resolve the global plastics crisis as UN talks get away in Geneva. Many of the countries present at the talks want limits on production of plastics, but some oil-producing nations disagree, seeing plastics as a key growth area. Opening the 10-day session, the chairperson, Wakwado Louis Vallas Valdivieso, said plastic pollution was affecting everybody.
We are facing a global crisis. Plastic pollution is damaging ecosystems, polluting our oceans and rivers, threatening biodiversity, harming human health, and unfairly impacting the most vulnerable.
Recapping the top story, Petroleum and Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe has expressed concern over the decline of the country's natural diamond industry. I'm on Dilambana for SAFM News headlines at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good afternoon. We start off in Joburg with a crash on the M1 South going down to Winnie Mandela. All lanes are open, but there's some peak hour traffic pressure backing up towards the Maclue interchange pretty quickly. N3 North from Heldenace up to Galuli's looking slow. That primarily is a delay getting through Galuli's onto the M12 and R24 eastbound tracks. And the R21, the roadworks update today. The delay is southbound towards Pomona Road, and it's quite a heavy delay. If you're coming out of Pretoria en route for flight connection to the airport, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through there. A stationary truck near Market Road as you leave Pietermaritzburg, so traffic very quickly parking back towards the Pietermaritzburg bypass area and looking heavy. That's on the Durban-bound carriageway. Cape Town this afternoon, Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound, slow to Hospital Bend. The M3 from the Bend all the way down to Rhodes Drive is quite slow, and a lot of traffic congestion on the N7. Jakes Kerville Drive at the N2. Looks like some traffic light problems continue to plague that interchange. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
In sports this hour, Coach Gavin Hunt set for new chapter as newly promoted KZN side, and Bulls cautious as they go top of the table, while Raducanu adds Rafa Nadal's former coach Frances Roig to her coaching team full-time. More details at 4:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, right. What's moving the National Pulse for you? What is it? What does your pulse tell you? I want to know. And as always, you can get it off your chest, good or bad. 086 000 2032, and then WhatsApp 0614 104 107, text or voice note. And you have the social media option if you use that hashtag, the National Pulse. Now, how is this story? Bergview College. You remember that college? Well, they've parted ways now with Jaco Pieterse, who you may remember had been a principal at the Eastern Cape institution. He was implicated in connection with an alleged rape of a 7-year-old at Twietweb and is later cleared of any involvement. So, what's the story behind this story? Barry Bateman is the spokesperson for AfriForum Private Prosecution Unit. Barry, appreciate your time on the National Pulse.
Thanks as always, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right, give us context here. I mean, this does sound rather bizarre in terms of a person being cleared of any involvement and now parting ways with the school. There must be a reason for that.
Well, I don't think it's bizarre at all when there's been a malicious campaign that has been waged against a man accusing of perhaps one of the worst things a teacher can be accused of, and that is raping a child. That this campaign that was started in October last year ultimately led to violent protests outside the school, him receiving death threats, his own children being threatened with rape via their social media accounts. He has been forced out of the own town that he's called home for many years. His wife has had to shut his business. And he, realizing that this is his unfortunate situation, he got into negotiations with his employer and they agreed to mutually part ways. I don't think it's bizarre at all. It's an ideal outcome for him at this stage.
Okay, let's take it from his point of view. So I understand. I mean, there's the law in terms of what the rulings are, but there's a souring of relationships in terms of the environment around it, right? Tell me more about Jaco Pieterse in terms of parting ways. When I say parting ways, I mean, is it a case of his call or the school's call?
It was an agreement on both sides, Ashraf, that the situation had not been favorable, was no longer favorable, that he retains his employment there. And so he's moving on to other opportunities. And I just want to quickly, I just need to comment on this aspect. You made in the question earlier, you said that it is peculiar or strange that if he's cleared, he's moving on.
Yeah.
And I hope you're not at all suggesting that this logic that's been going around, well, if you've got nothing to hide, well, why don't you go and do that? With a suggestion that, if he's done nothing wrong, why doesn't he stay on? Because that speaks to this illogical idea that people are, no longer innocent until proven guilty.
Well, let me answer that. No, absolutely not, because now you're insinuating I'm thinking of something and you don't know. I'm simply saying if he's been cleared, then what is the state of the environment of the school that would still see the person leave? Now, perhaps you're explaining that anyway, to say, effectively, I would get it, and maybe these are my words, that it's become too toxic to remain. I mean, and you can elaborate on that.
Well, I did elaborate on it then, given the protests and the violent and vicious campaign against his name.
Okay. So what happens? I mean, it's as straightforward as that. What happens next to him? You said he's got another position now, right? Yeah?
Well, I'm not going to discuss what he's going to do next. What I can say is that he's no longer going to be at the school. Our process now is to ensure that those people who falsely accused him of being linked to this claimed rape, that they get prosecuted for tarnishing his name.
Would he, I mean, you've played a huge role in providing a defense for him. Would he be willing to talk on air?
No, he wouldn't be. He has spoken before to written publications, but no, not at this stage. And he has spoken outside the police station when he was opening the cases. So he won't be prepared to talk at this stage.
Okay. What effect has this had on him personally? We know what the law says. I'm looking at just from a personal point of view. What impact and effect has it had on him?
It's turned his life upside down, Ashraf. This is a man who's dedicated his entire life to teaching children. And he's being falsely accused of doing one of the most atrocious things, and that is raping a child in his care. He has become lambasted, and even to the point, and he says this in some of his interviews as among the worst that has happened, is former pupils who were sold this story were then commenting that, I can't believe that this is my old principal, that he would actually do this. And that has hurt him deeply. It has essentially brought an end to his career as a teacher. So, and his life in that town, as I indicated, his wife has had to close their business because of the threats to them. His own children, threatened with rape as a form of punishment. Well, because you raped that child, well, we're going to rape your daughter as well. I mean, this is the kind of thinking of the people we're dealing with. So it has turned his life upside down, Ashraf. It's an awful story.
Well, it certainly is. What's the big lesson to learn from this?
Well, first off, I think people should be circumspect before they accept anything that they've heard on social media and repeat it. And Ashraf, I must say, this applies to the mainstream media as well. A lot of allegations were accepted unquestionably and repeated without actually interrogating them. And I think we should be mindful as well of what we say about people on social media without having the facts verified. Another aspect in this, and I think it's been lost in it a lot, is at the very core of this is a little girl that has been publicly identified. Her own mother put her face on social media and provided graphic details about she was damaged in an apparent rape. And that is going to be out there forever. Every time that somebody says the justice system has failed a girl, Kwekwe is going to be wheeled out as the face of this. And that cannot be turned back. And she will live with that for the rest of her life. And it has been put out there. And unfortunately, you can't turn back that, as we hear in so many other cases. It is out in the social media sphere, and it will remain so forever.
I mean, you're right. I think both their lives have changed forever. In this case here, the educator and the girl in question, right? Just what about pursuing the path of damages, say on behalf of the former principal? Is that likely to happen?
Yeah, AfriForum. So not our office. We deal only with criminal matters. AfriForum. The main body is going to be taking up the cases against Fikile Mbalula, Julius Malema, and so-called fact-checker or disinformation expert Phumzile Van Dam, because she was one of the biggest advances of the false claims that Mr. Peterson was linked to the rape. So those individuals will be pursued civilly.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Barry Bateman, spokesperson for the AfriForum Private Prosecution Unit. This referring to the Bergview College position with Jacob Pietrus, who had been the principal at that institution, that school, and now parting ways. And despite him being found, cleared of any charges of rape charges against a young girl, right, 8 years old. And we know in terms of what Barry Bateman has said, he's not saying where's he going to, but then said that in fact his career in education is over. So we'll find out exactly where he goes next. Perhaps for you, and you heard that. I asked him, Barry Bateman, what are the lessons to learn? Do you concur with him about the lessons to learn from that conversation? And that's the case. I'd certainly welcome your thoughts on that. Right, there's a development regarding the ad hoc committee that's been formed probing Mkwanazi's allegations. You know that. We'll talk about that right after this.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so developments certainly thick and fast with the pronouncements from the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. It looks like South Africa's not been the same since, right? So things have happened. We've had a Minister of Police who's not acting as the Minister of Police anymore. He's on this special leave and maybe won't be even that soon, based upon the conversations we've heard from the President the other day. But now we know that the ANC's Soviet Lekhanyane was elected as the chairperson of the ad hoc committee. So this committee now established to investigate allegations made by Mkhwanazi. So let's pick out some of the pronouncements made from today's meeting. First of all, Soviet Lekhanyane thanking members of the ad hoc committee, thanking for them for making him the chairperson.
Honorable members, I want to thank you so much and hope that we are going to work together. I was very impressed when I arrived here, Chief Whip. Almost everybody was here. This is the kind of attitude and work ethic that will take us to greater heights, and I want to give you 100% for the manner in which we responded to the call, and also thank the organizers of this meeting, the Secretariat, for the work that you have done. The committee is meeting for the first time today. The Secretariat informs me that the purpose of today's meeting was to elect the chairperson. That was the only item on the agenda, but because I know we are politicians, we can't meet and elect a chairperson and say, no, the meeting is dismissed, must go. What I want to propose is that the Secretariat because I see in this meeting there is a significant presence of people from the legal section of Parliament. They have to go and develop terms of reference for the committee and its program. So the next meeting, the sooner they conclude that, we must get into the next meeting and adopt those terms of reference.
Now, there's not a day that goes by when you as listener, you call in and say, you know what, these committees are just nonsense. These commissions of inquiry are nonsense. They just go on and nothing ever comes out of it. Interesting, therefore, that now the chairperson of this ad hoc committee essentially makes it very clear that this committee cannot be a joke.
And when I listen to you speaking here, all of you said, Parliament is the highest locus of power in the Republic. That's what you said in many ways as honorable members here. But I can tell you, an ordinary South African who was working on the streets and start running to the house because they hear that Parliament is electing the chairperson of the ad hoc committee. And then when they stand before television, they see us starting to behave like this. Somebody says, but we have said it, that these people are a joke. This is how they behave themselves. What can we expect from them? We must not even be surprised when the levels of confidence decline. Please, honorable members, there may be any matter, no matter how difficult the matter is, we must always have a way to deal with that matter as prudent as possible. Can I follow the list?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. And I think to a large extent, both yourself and Honorable Sokanyile have covered me. What I wanted to say, Chair, is that we cannot on the very first day want to collapse this process. And if we are going to have members coming here with the intention of being populist and trying to use what is a very, to quote your words, what you said is a grave concern of the people, they use that for cheap political point scoring, then we are going to have a problem. When you made your opening remarks, you said the people of South Africa are looking to us on this process. There will be no stone that is left unturned. And I think that as members, we should conduct ourselves in that manner and not come here and have to defend statements that are made with the intention of garnering attention for cameras. Thank you, Chair.
Attention for cameras. So, there's more on that. There's also a comment from Julius Malema, which we'll hear right after this.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Right, lots more to come. In the meantime, let me remind you, this message is brought to you by Chuba, the proud operator of the National Lottery. Don't miss out on the Powerball jackpot estimated at, mind-blowing 124 million rands. It's on tonight, so don't delay. Dare to dream big by playing Powerball for the estimated 124 million rand jackpot today for your chance at multi-millions. Buy your ticket now in store on the nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Chuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so let's continue chatting about the formation of the ad hoc committee into the Mkhwanazi allegations. Now, the EFF's Julius Malema, well, he made the point of making the distinction really between the appointment of the chairperson in terms of the ANC and Soviet Lekhanyane.
With the ANC occupying the position of a chairperson, with a person occupying the position of a chairperson, So an impression must never be created that we have a problem with you. We have a problem with the ANC occupying that position. Secondly, you, chairperson, said we are politicians. Since there's no agenda or anything, let's speak. People speak here. When people speak because you open the floor, they are told they are speaking for cameras. As if some people have got a right here to come and give us notes and tell us what to say. We are not just speaking. The chairperson said speak because it's a first meeting. So we express ourselves and all of that, and then we leave. She's raising her observation on the position of the chairperson. There's no, because her observation doesn't change anything. It will not reverse what has democratically happened. But it's important that an observation be made by a member if she so wishes, because the chair opened the floor. Nowhere do they say democratic processes cannot be questioned. She's within her right. At no point of order is necessary because she's not going out of any agreed upon agenda item. So, and she's speaking for the first time. Action SA is speaking for the first time. All we could have done it was to protect her and allow her to make observation, and we proceed. Not for her to be character assassinated the way people are doing now. I think she must be protected. To be called populist, to be called cameras, it's out of order. It's really unbecoming. It's unacceptable, especially when we're just starting.
Okay, does he have a point? There's more. Parliament's Legal Services, Andile Tatiana, then said it's important to note that what General Mkhwanazi said on the 6th of July, that pronouncement that changed it all, and he's saying that note that what he said on that date is not evidence.
Legal technical support which needs to take place, and some of the issues we can deal with them when we meet in the management meeting, of course, under our leadership, chairperson, because Honorable Sangoni is correct, in saying the witnesses will have to be identified, and of course, chairperson, I'm saying this with the greatest of respect. What General Mkhwanazi said, chairperson, on the 6th of July 2025 is not evidence, chairperson, in a technical sense. And of course, one would need a legal person to go around speaking to people who will be able to corroborate what Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi said. And of course, as you can imagine, chairperson, the committee, cannot do that. And of course, you need, sworn statements from witnesses drafted and so on and so on. So that's the kind of work we think will be taking place over the next 2 to 3 weeks, chairperson. But if you were to say, what is our firm or concrete proposal, chairperson, is that the draft terms of reference be circulated, and of course, members or even different political parties can comment on them, we firm them up. We have a meeting where they are considered. Of course, consider means the committee may either adopt or not adopt them. I'm not sure the chairperson if
we are not.
Okay, there we are. Lots to reflect on all of that, and I'm sure you have an opinion, as I expect you to have here on the National Pulse. Right, to do that, how about calling in live? You can, in fact, I'll take your calls right away. 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp too, 0614 104 107. By the way, if you're listening for the very first time, tell me so I can sort of applaud you, number one. But also, where are you listening from? Where are you? I'd love to know. How about just messaging us? Or you can tweet it out too. I'd love to know where you're listening to the show from. Not unexpectedly, lots of comment about AfriForum and that conversation about the former, principal. Yeah, it is.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. AfriForum are being hypocrites. Today, Donald Trump and his racist cabal in the US have imposed 30% tariffs on us because of their lies. Today he comes on radio telling us people shouldn't believe anything that is on social media. What a joke.
You made your point very strongly, but just keep in mind, in terms of the processes, there's the AfriForum as we would know it, in terms of their complaints to Donald Trump, and there's the private prosecution unit, and I would think that they're completely separate. You could talk about funding, and I think there you may be right about that, but in terms of the processes of this conversation, you have to be treating it as completely separate issues, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I hear the tone of your guest from AfriForum there. It looks like they want to threaten people into silence. They are threatening people not to react when something has been said or done. They want to threaten people so that you don't even come out and come in sort of a march if there's a heinous crime done. They want you to keep quiet until an investigation has been completed, and then you go in march. This is not the way to go about it. AfriForum is sort of trying to bully people into silence. Anonymous from Butterworth.
I was going to say thank you with your name, but you in silence because you're anonymous, so I don't really know who you are. But I mean, do you have a point? Does he have a point? Do you think they were trying to bully people into silence? Or do they have a point about, like, don't pronounce judgment until there's a legal issue that follows its natural course? I mean, don't they have a point about that?
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I've been listening to the lawyer who's representing that ex-principal. Look, this case is a very complex matter. One cannot just jump and have a side on the matter. But what I can say is that I'm just grateful for his family to be on his side. They did not judge him until the court found him guilty, if he is to be found guilty. And on the other hand is that I think his crime is that he is white. For the first time, when I see black people march for a crime that they don't even they're not even sure of who committed it, and then they march and they were filling the streets every province. And it's not like it's the first time that the child is been raped by a known person. The people never march. But I think the principal's crime is him being white. Bob, Cape Town.
Okay, well, that's your opinion. We'll have more on that in a half. And does that happen where, the fact that you have a certain race or ethnicity, in a greater scheme of other things, that you then get condemned a little bit quicker than others? Just think about that. Okay, more to come, right? 4:30. Here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Social Justice Movement, Not in My Name International, has expressed concern over the escalating reports of severe bullying at a number of schools across South Africa. Petroleum and Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe has expressed concern over the decline of the country's natural diamond industry. Mantashe met with industry stakeholders to discuss a strategic response to lab-produced diamonds. And thousands of people are taking part in rallies, concerts and prayer sessions in Dhaka in Bangladesh to mark a year since the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was ousted in a student-led uprising. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We kick it off in Joburg with some heavy pressure on the N3 north from Germiston up to Giluli's interchange. The problem is getting off the N3 and onto the N12 and R24 eastbound. So quite heavy on that run through Bedfordview this afternoon. The N1 between Buccleuch and William Mandela being held up by a crash after the Rivonia Road exit. Mike 1's heavy today from Melrose up to the N1. And then you're sitting traffic all the way through basically to about Samrand Road. So Melrose to Samrand, just full of traffic. R21, the roadworks are southbound today approaching Pomona Road. The back of the queue around Bupsfontein, that's heavy if you're on the way to the airport having left Pretoria. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through that. Coming out of Pretoria's Fountain Circle is heavy. In from Brooklyn or out of the city centre, problems through the circle and onto Christina de Wit down towards the Eupheus and N14 joint. Durban side, there's a bit of a backlog from Key Ridge heading up to Cliffdale. That's on your way to Pietermaritzburg. And if you're coming out of Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown, stationary vehicle at Market Road, pushing queues back towards New England Road. That's looking quite heavy on the Durban bound carriageway. Cape Town today, N2 out of town, slow go between City Centre and Boonga Avenue, and the N7 Jakes Kerwell Drive jamming both ways today onto the N2 Highway Bridge. There have been some problems with the traffic lights this week on that bridge. It looks like they're probably still out of action. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
All right, let's talk sport. Huge build-up to the PSL. Remember Gavin Hunt? Well, do remember Gavin Hunt because Tubi does.
Yeah, talking about Gavin Hunt, the Durban City coach, he says that he's all set to start a new journey with the newly promoted KZN side. Having won the Motsepe Foundation Championship last season, Durban City will be looking to cement themselves in the Betway Premiership this season. They kickstart their campaign against TS Galaxy away on Sunday, and Hunt says that he's open to the challenge ahead.
It's a new, obviously a new challenge. It's a new team. The club's got a great history. I don't know if anybody in this room will know the history, but the history in the 70s and 80s was huge. It was a club that won many trophies, and obviously it's a different era now. We understand, but we try and revive the feeling at the club, and certainly I'm sure the mainstay sales will go up on Friday nights at Chatsworth. If you know what I mean, but you won't remember that. It's a great, and we'll try and create a good competitive team, which I've only been there 3 weeks, so it's not easy. But slowly but surely we'll put one foot forward and we'll be competitive.
On the other hand, TS Galaxy, Adnan Beganovic says that it's been a tough pre-season for them, but he says that they're all ready for the task ahead.
Yeah. We rebuild our team always. It's tough pre-season for us, but I think we have enough time to prepare our team. First of all, physically and tactically, and we also want to put to everybody in the club understand our vision, what we want, and how we want our team looks this season. Still, we want to play beautiful football, attacking football, but we can't forget also we always, every season we try to produce some young players like this season, and then in our squad we have so many good young stars, and then I think we just need to be sure to start season better as we start last season.
Meanwhile, Banyana rising star Adrielle Mibe says that she's excited about her future in football as she begins a new journey in the United States of America. Mibe was recently unveiled as the new signing at the University of Arizona, where she will compete in the NCAA League. And she says she's quite grateful that she can continue to pursue her studies while growing her football profile abroad.
I'm playing for an overseas team. It is something I'm happy. It is something I've always dreamed of, and I am really enjoying my new stay at my new club. They're really welcoming, and it's just a very enjoyable and a new experience for me. And about this journey, yes, I am going to continue my studies this side, and I feel grateful because they're helping me achieve my goals, both academically and football-wise. So that's like a win-win for me, and moving forward in both aspects of my life, in my studies and my football.
Moving on to rugby, Bull Skills coach Kennedy Nzimba says that they are looking to remain grounded after 2 commanding wins to go top of the table. Following the 64-0 win over the Sharks, the Tshwane side has 10 points from 2 matches, edging the Lions on points difference. Now the Bulls face the Pumas next, and Nzimba warns that they'll bring a different kind of challenge, one that could test the depth and discipline of the star-studded squad. Finally, in tennis, Emma Raducanu has added Rafa Nadal's former coach Francis Ruig to a team on a full-time basis. This is ahead of this month's US Open. Raducanu has been working with British coach Mark Petchey on an informal basis since March. However, Petchey's TV commitments has prevented him from becoming Raducanu's full-time coach. And after a trial with Ruig following Wimbledon, the 22-year-old will begin work with him at the Cincinnati Open this week. This is after he agreed a contract until the end of this year. Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic Djokovic has withdrawn from this week's start of the Cincinnati Masters. This means that the 38-year-old will have played no matches between his Wimbledon semi-final loss to Jannik Sinner and the US Open, which starts in 3 weeks. Now, Ashraf, as we were listening to Gavin Hunt speaking, our technical producer here, Phineas, was asking, is Gavin Hunt going to deliver? And his answer is a no, which actually made me think, when does it get to a point when you know a good coach will never go back to his glory days again? Because we know that Gavin Hunt is a good coach, but it seems like he's had that dip in terms of
I think the big
getting
question is,
results.
will he, when he delivers, as per Phineas's sarcasm, is what does deliver mean? And I mean, this is an important point. For Mamelodi Sundowns, deliver means winning the title. Finishing second or third is not good enough anymore. For Kaizer Chiefs, finishing third may be a great result. So for Durban City, new name, fairly new name, as you know, from what is Maritzburg before or whatever, and now new coach. What does deliver for them mean? I think the first step is stay alive in the Premier League. If they stay alive in the Premier League, will they deliver? My guess is, yeah.
Well, one thing that Hunt said today is that a coach can only deliver as per how good his players are. So we are yet to see if he has a good side. He says he believes his side is good enough to play in this league. So let's wait and see.
They all say that because the transfer market is still open. And by the way, just talking about that as a side issue, I see the head of Barcelona Football Club has been saying that he doesn't mind playing La Liga games in the USA. And I'm like saying, absolutely
It doesn't make sense.
No.
The SABC News Portal is your one-stop digital platform for all the news you need. Stay connected with the latest and breaking stories. Listen to all SABC radio stations live, including podcasts, and also watch the SABC News channel with clips and live streams of all the big news events. Simply download the SABC News app on your smartphone from the Play or App Store. SABC News, independent and impartial. This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All. We honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Thank you for tuning in to today's business feature, proudly sponsored by CFI, a leading trading app now available in South Africa. Download it now. Visit cfi.trade today.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, to the numbers we go with Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers. You've got, Makwe, you've got local and global news in a moment, but there's results from Nedbank.
Yes, Ashraf, and that is for their 6 months, and all the unnecessary noise led to market volatility and reduced business confidence. Profits as headline earnings up 6%, with return on equity improving slightly to 15.2%, and the increase in profits were driven by non-interest revenue, associate income growth, and also ongoing improvement when it comes to the impairment charged, but partially offset by muted net interest income growth, revenue up 4%, and the in 1.2% stake in EcoBank. They held the stake for almost 17 years. And some market participants, Ashraf, are warning that a major market pullback is coming, given the sky-high valuations, but the economic picture is darkening, driven by fallout from trade war, slowing consumer spending, high unemployment, and potentially inflation coming back. And their rebound in stocks extended at the beginning of the session even now, and that has been fueled by the bets of interest rate cuts And locally, our latest PMI recovered marginally in July, supported by a rise in new businesses and steady output levels, but input costs increased, and that is due to rising wages and materials. Ashraf, Trump said he was getting very close to a deal with China, that is to extend the trade truce that saw the two countries agreeing to reduce their tit-for-tat tariff hikes, and oil traders are fretting over increased production and falling demand amid increased global economic headwind, and Brent crude is down 1% at $67 a barrel, and so far this year gold is up almost 29%, becoming the top performing asset class, and today it is consolidating, underpinned by growing expectations of a rate cut. As we are talking, gold is flat at 3,371, platinum is down 1% at 1,313, and global stocks are mixed with the JSE up 0.3%. The rand weakened almost 0.2% against the dollar, 17.97, 23.86 against the pound, and 20.72 against the euro.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that. As always, Mark Wheelwright, we'll connect with you tomorrow. But a reminder, we have an hour of the markets with Jimmy Moyaha coming up from 6 to 7 this evening.
This business feature is sponsored by CFI, an authorized financial services provider, a global leader in online trading now available in South Africa. Visit cfi.trade today.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Trade like a champion with CFI. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial Markets LLC is a Category 1 licensed broker by the UAE Securities and Commodities Authority. Trading involves high risk.
CFI, empower yourself.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So, you know the conversation we had earlier on with the EFF regarding the ruling regarding Kenny Konene's cockroach remark about Julius Malema. We'll have another take on that, certainly in terms of, what is not just the law, I mean, we know that part, but also the other is, political figures, what can they say and not say, basically what can they get away with and what can't they get away with, and the reputational damage it may cause or may not cause with others too. So we'll chat about that just after the news at 5, so do listen out for that, right? Okay, and of course, we'll take more of your thoughts as well as soon as we can, coming up pretty shortly. But let's talk about another issue. It's an issue we touched on yesterday, and now there's a sequel to that. The National Union of Mine Workers has expressed concern over the arrest of more than 500 illegal miners operating at the Sheba Gold Mine in Barberton, Mpumalanga. Now, with me is the spokesperson for the National Union of Mine Workers, and that's Libowani Mamburu. Appreciate you connecting to us on the National Pulse.
Thanks, Ashraf, and the listeners of SFM.
Right, so we do know about these illegal miners being rescued. Yesterday we touched on it, but from your side, you are concerned. What is the concern?
Definitely, the National Union of Mine Workers is concerned about the arrest of more than 500 illegal mine workers at Sheba Mine in Barberton. Reason being that, but firstly, I want to say that we do not condone illegal mining, because where there is illegal mining, there are killings, there's violence, there's rape of women and children in surrounding communities. Already our members who live in those communities are confirming that crime is rife in that area in Barberton. It's a concern, Ashraf, and that is the reason why we're saying that we are not happy, because our members, when they go underground, they don't feel safe. And these Zamazamas, what they do also while our members are underground, they forcefully take their food. And at the same time, the company threatens our members that they are selling food to the Zamazamas, whereas our members are being intimidated there. And also, what happened, or the intelligence that we got recently, is that one of the mine captains was dismissed because of being involved in illegal mining. So these are some of the things that forcing us or saying that we are worried about the safety of our members there at Shiva Mine in Barberton.
So let me be clear about this. Your concern, are you concerned that there are illegal miners there and they've been rescued. Are you concerned that they're being arrested? Or are you concerned that they're going to be arrested? Some of them may be deported, others may be not, and therefore they're free to roam in your town. What is the concern?
The concern is that they are working in the same environment where our members are working underground. Like I said, they forcefully take food from our members and without our members' permission. They were not even supposed to be there in the first place, Ashraf. That is a main concern. The company was supposed to provide security for them, but the company is not doing that because in terms of Section 2 of the Mine Health and Safety Act, the company must make sure that its operations are safe for the workers to work. And because they are the mining holder. As a mining holder, they must provide security for our members where they are working. Our members cannot work with illegal.
But in that case, then in that case, I would take it that you're not just concerned over the arrest. In fact, you are happy that they've been arrested. Yeah.
No, definitely. We welcome the arrest. Like what I said to you, that we do not condone illegal mining because where there's illegal mining, there are killings and violence and rape of women and children in surrounding communities. As I've indicated to you, that the crime in that area is very bad.
Okay, let's talk about the issue of illegal mining. You've been sort of quoted as saying it's out of control. Yes, I mean we talk about different mines in different parts of South Africa every day, right? And there is a sense it's out of control. What is your understanding in terms of how did we get into that position, and how do we get out of it?
It is a difficult one. Firstly, you have abandoned mines, Ashraf, where they are not properly closed by companies when they have reached the end of life. And company, when it's operating, it must save funds for rehabilitation when the mine or an operation has reached its end. Some of these operations were abandoned years ago, but the regulator is saying that there are rehabilitation funds that are available to close the mines, those who have been abandoned. So we still want to see a situation where these abandoned mines are properly closed, and the regulator must do that, as we have said, that there are rehabilitation funds that are meant to properly close those abandoned mines.
Okay, what then? Is there an understanding from your side that there are people in this country who are attempting to effectively pursue a career of illegal mining purely because they are so impoverished, without jobs, without money, they have no choice? There's a sense of hopelessness, and therefore, when there's hopelessness, you take whatever help you can get to move from helplessness to getting some help. Is there any empathy for that?
Definitely, Ashraf. I'll give you an example of what is happening right now at Shiva Mine. I mean, the company, if you have seen the company representative on media, he was saying that they had to retrench 2 months ago more than 200 workers because of illegal mining. And for that, it was not true, Ashraf. We know since that there's no challenge of illegal mining at Barberton. There is a challenge, but the main issue here, what was happening while our members were retrenched, is because the company is busy currently, as we're speaking. It's retrenching permanent workers and replace them with contract workers. Some of these contract workers don't enjoy benefits that are enjoyed by permanent workers. So imagine those 200 workers, permanent workers, have been retrenched, and some of them are highly skilled. Where are they supposed to go to make a living?
Okay,
that's a difficult situation that communities in that area are facing, where the companies retrench permanent workers and replace them with contract workers who does not get benefit at all. So the question, like I said, like I'm posing, is that where are those who have the permanent workers who are highly skilled supposed to? How are they supposed to make a living? Also, obviously, they will be tempted by illegal mining.
Okay, point made, and you certainly have done that. Thank you for your time. Let's get further reaction on that. Libowani Mamburu, the National Union of Mine Workers spokesperson, reflecting really on, the conundrum of the miners now that have been lifted from that mine, but now illegal miners they are, so they've been arrested and at the Sheba Gold mine, and then the other issue that was said or alleged in terms of how these illegal miners are giving the legal miners a hard time down under, as in the mines itself. Right, this is the National Pulse. You're on the Pulse. Let's feel you after this.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay, to Rebecca, we go first. Zwandile, go for it. What's your point?
Yeah, no, Ashraf, I actually wanted to comment on the Joyco matter and the lessons that should have been learned from there.
Yeah,
I feel that AfriForum had completely mismanaged that from a public relations point of view, because they had advanced knowledge that actually their client was innocent. And what they should actually have done is to bring the client and South Africans under one umbrella. Instead, they took a racial position of racially defending someone and racializing that case. So now the client has won, the matter legally, but actually has lost to South Africans. So I'm saying issues of this nature, when you are seeing that they are a national branding issue, we should find ways to build bridges rather than to disintegrate them. The Mkhwanazi matter is a clinical example where one person took a position and all South Africans rallied around that. That is exactly what should have happened here. It's a missed opportunities on the part of AfriForum, meaning therefore cases of this nature should not be used to further racialize South African responses, but should rather find ways in the heat of the moment to find a common theme that can rally us around the defense of the child, and not a racial defense against someone.
Okay, point taken. What about the flip side? And just remove AfriForum from this issue, because ultimately there's a principle that's been there were allegations, and many sort of came out in the media and turned those allegations into fact in terms of his life, which, as we know that the allegations were not true. What about the lessons learned about him?
Sorry, about him in which context?
Well, in terms of how he effectively was sort of nailed in the public spaces, because the assumption made that he was just guilty because he was guilty.
No, precisely, Asha. Hence, I'm saying it's a public relations exercise, because if he didn't have the power to defend himself, surely there should have been. Okay, maybe you are asking in a situation where someone is defenseless like him. Yeah. How do we find defense for somebody to express their position around the matter, which is a good question. Because as we are saying, he was pretty much nailed by the media at the time.
Yeah.
I think in that case, you should actually be the expert to educate us how to handle it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to chat to Tsepo Matseba, the MD of Reputation First, coming up after 5 o'clock. I will put that question to him, Mzwandile. Thank you for that, right? Let's get to Flagstaff now. Sitembile on the line. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Listen, man, as you have said earlier on, that you don't just pronounce the judgment before it can actually be tested in the court of law.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I will have to go with AfriForum on this one. I'll tell you why. The doctor as well, before I can go to that, the doctor as well needs to be taken to task together with those that the AfriForum says is going to take them to court. Because the doctor is the one person who caused all this, because he or she examined the child and said that the child was raped. But I did not hear anything about the samples taken from the child. And now the gentleman was forced by the media, by everyone, to go for a DNA testing. Now, the question that I have is, what was his sample going to compared to if there were no samples taken from the child? You know, so I really disagree with those. I disagreed, in fact, from the word go, with the fact that the doctor needs to. I mean, the gentleman needed to go to, needed to surrender his samples, because the reason why the gentleman refused is because he needed something official to say, you are now alleged accused. You must go for a samples. So there was nothing like that, you see.
Okay.
So I believe that the gentleman, if there was a letter or anything of that sort that was given to him, he was definitely going to go for that. So the gentleman was just innocent. It was clear.
But okay, I'll leave it at that. But I'll tell you what, when it comes to issues like this, there is a general sense that the moment even a person appears in court, or you just even going to the police stations, like, you know what, this is what the person did. So got that, not that it's right, it's wrong, but that does happen. And it's very, very damaging, isn't it? Here's another.
Afternoon, Ashraf, Young and Rosebank in the Western Cape. Yeah, you know, Ashraf, this story of Kwekwe, really what a tragedy. And one can only, you know, wish strength to the family, you know, of the little girl, you know, the principal and his family too. Because, look, I don't think their life will ever be the same again. Unfortunately, that's the tragedy about this story. And thinking, will the real perpetrator be brought to justice? You know, it's, yeah, that's another thing. But really, one can only, you know, wish strength to both parties, really.
I think that's a very sober call, exactly that. Their lives are damaged, and I wish them strength, because that's the reality. Outside the political spaces and the lobbying groups that take place on the outside. Thanks for that, right? Here's another one. So these illegals are mining illegally in a legal mine. How do they get access? I could say, what's the legal position on that? Here's another.
Good day, Ashraf. We have a case in Morokweng. Morokweng is in Northwest, where a 6-year-old was raped, killed, and thrown into the pit latrine. The perpetrator is a black man. The newsroom was there, and this issue is not receiving media attention that the one for Twetwe did. Maybe this guy is into something where he said the biggest crime of this principal was because he's white. Just a fruit for thought. Thanks.
Okay, interesting one indeed. Well, okay. I wonder what others think about that position. Is it that in a society that often becomes polarized, do we take sides on the basis of these type of issues? By the way, just to remind you, tomorrow, the Mpumalanga Education will talk to us regarding the issue of the Woodbank School raised by one of the listeners yesterday, earlier on, right? Remember about the teachers being absent, the principal not being around, and so on and so on. Right, let's get to the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg Hose.
Concern over rise in bullying cases and decline in country's natural diamond industry. Good day to you. Social justice movement Not in My Name Internationals expressed concern over the escalating reports of bullying at a number of schools in South Africa. The movement says these bullying incidents are direct violation of a child's right to learn and develop in a dignified environment. The movement's Temba Masango.
Trauma supports for victims and rehabilitative interventions for perpetrators are essential in making sure that we have a sustainable solution.
The Petroleum and Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe has expressed concern over the decline of the country's natural diamond industry. He's met with industry stakeholders to discuss a response to lab-produced diamonds. Mantashe is proposing a universal accord that would see companies contribute 1% of their annual turnover to a major marketing campaign for natural diamonds.
The natural diamonds
are under siege in many ways. The market is depressed, the price of diamond is down, and lab-grown diamonds are eating in our lunch. We are coming here with an initiative which is globally, which we discussed in Luanda, of aggressive marketing of natural diamonds. Make the distinction between a natural diamond and a lab-grown diamond. If producers pay 1% of their turnover in marketing their product, it doesn't need to go to Parliament. But we can develop a policy that covers them.
The Taung Regional Court in the northwest has sentenced Kabela Mongongwa to life imprisonment for the murder of his girlfriend, Solofelo Mpokile. He was also sentenced to an additional 5 years imprisonment for possession of a firearm. Both sentences will run concurrently. Tabogo Pakedi reports.
The conviction stems from an incident that occurred in February last year in Kibizwane village in Taung, where Mokgongwa and Mpukile had returned from a local tavern. Upon arriving at the Mokgongwa's residence, an altercation reportedly ensued, during which Mokgongwa became aggressive towards the deceased. A witness, the Mokgongwa's nephew, testified that the couple locked themselves in a room and continued arguing. Moments later, he heard a gunshot coming from the room. Fearing for his life, the nephew fled to seek help from the neighbors. Upon their arrival, Mpukile's body was discovered in the room, having sustained gunshot wounds. Police were called to the scene and Mokgongwa was arrested the following day. He was denied bail and has remained in custody since.
The interim leader of Bangladesh, Muhammad Yunus, has unveiled national reforms to mark the first anniversary of protests that led to the ousting of autocratic Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. There's been a minute of silence to remember the hundreds of people killed. In a message to the nation, Yunus said that fallen autocrats and their allies were still conspiring to derail progress in Bangladesh.
Today we have not come merely to remember the past, we have come to take a pledge that we will never bow down to any form of oppression, that we will establish an accountable, humane, democratic and egalitarian state that will always work for the welfare of its people.
Top stories. Social justice movement Not in My Name Internationals expressed concern over the escalating reports of bullying at a number of schools in South Africa. The movement says this is a direct violation of a child's right to learn and develop in a dignified environment. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In sports, the SAWA 2025-26 Betway Premiership season officially launched. Morani eager to continue solid working relationship with Shukri, and Mboko ready for a Bakina challenge. More details at 5:30.
Good afternoon. Joburg first up stays heavy on the N3 today between Heldenace interchange in Germiston and the link onto the N12 East at Galulis. That run up through Bedfordview under quite a bit of pressure. Looks a little bit like the morning time queues. N12 and R24 coming into Galulis from the east. There's a broken down vehicle, so that's quite a bit slow. And a collision seen on the M1 North going into Buccleuch. So after Avonia Road, you will hit some traffic there. The N1 South from Buccleuch all the way down to William Mandela is quite heavy as well. The roadworks on the R21 still biting at Pomona Road. It's a heavy backlog airport bound with a queue back towards the R25 Bopsfontein Road exit. Across into Durban, quite slow today, getting out from Pavilion towards Pinetown, backlogging into Paradise Valley. There's some pressure on the M13 from the top of Fields Hill, moving through to Gillett if you're on your way to Pinetown, and some queues Cliffdale up towards the Key Ridge area, or Key Ridge to Cliffdale, I should say, on your way to Pietermaritzburg. Cape Town today, heavy pressure on the N7, Jakes Kerwell going south. That's all backed up from Epping, passing Langa down towards the N2 Highway Bridge. It's northbound slow as well, but that southbound run from Epping is really quite heavy today. Marine Drive all choked up towards Boundary Road, and if you're around the Nyanga area, extra pressure today on Danafontein Road through Govan and Becky Junction. Both of those routes under real pressure. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Moore and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Jello, Willem Siini, Gabby Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
EFC is live this Thursday in the heart of Africa. Battle lines are drawn. Africa's best face Europe's elite. Vili, the White Lion van Rooyen, is now back to defend his title against Anatoly Gaffin. And Ntando, the Zulu warrior zombie, receives the challenge of the fiercer Muhammad Salohidinov. EFC 126 is live this Thursday from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
What is it about this exposure to technology, Kaylee, that is particularly harmful for young children?
I think the biggest thing is that is taking away a lot of the natural opportunities that children are getting to play. And this is something we're noticing a lot in the clinical and practical setting as well, and it is a growing concern. As screen time increases, physical play often decreases because they are spending their time in other ways or looking at a screen and engaging with that.
Kaylee Rice is a pediatric occupational therapist.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen, and nothing is off the agenda.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's keep the conversation moving. I certainly want to know what you have to say on the many of the issues we've discussed today, and of course many of the others we haven't discussed. And I can tell you one thing, I don't always agree with you as a listener, or listeners in plural, but I'll tell you what, when I go home, often enough after when I get home and I have supper with my wife Jamila, and I'll tell her, you know what, the listeners and their knowledge about things in South Africa often will put politicians to shame. I'm telling that to you. You are so knowledgeable. It's tremendous. So keep it going. Keep it up. Even if we disagree sometimes. I'm just talking about the actual knowledge and how you articulate your position. So let's find out how Tsepo Matseba articulates his position. He's the Managing Director of Reputation First. And we're going to talk to him in response to the earlier conversation we had with Mazwi Bloze, who was the EFF MP, remember? We spoke about the Gauteng High Court ordering the Patriotic Alliance's suspended Deputy President, Kenny Kunene, to apologize. So there's a court order. Kenny Kunene has to apologize to the EFF leader. Why? Julius Malema, that is, for calling Malema a cockroach. So the broader question outside of this, or to take it to a next level, is, what about politicians? What can they say? What can they not say? And what are the checks and balances around that, right? So with me then, Tsepo Matseba, appreciate your time as always to connect on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. First of all, maybe let me start with this. You've seen that ruling, I'm sure, regarding Kenny Kunene again and the cockroach factor. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it sets the boundaries, because the word cockroach has different meanings around the world. But importantly, we know historically that it has serious racial undertones. It has demeaning in nature a lot of the times that it was used, especially in the US. And so what the ruling does is that it sets the boundary that says politicians actually cannot just speak with free speech without any boundaries, that while it's protected and while their rights are protected, that it is not without limits. And the use of such derogatory and maybe even dehumanizing language, like the term cockroach, really crosses the line. And it degrades a person's dignity, and it's the dignity that's at issue here, and therefore it takes us to discussions about hate speech. And I think it's the right direction, so that irrespective of our seniority or our influence in political life, that we take responsibility for that which we say.
So interesting you talk about crossing the line. So if this issue of the cockroach crosses the line, then what doesn't cross the line?
Yeah, it is okay to have political speech, and unfortunately politicians often take things way too far. But what doesn't cross the line is to say to someone in political speech that you disagree with them and that they are not thinking carefully. because that there you are just dealing with the behavior or perhaps perceived behavior of an individual, or that they are not willing to read, and that can be based on their previous behavior, that you've noticed that the statements that they made or make are consistently uninformed, where in instances where ordinarily a political leader or a politician ought to have known. So you can make those type of remarks. You can also disagree. You can also call someone, from time to time we've seen people being called stupid, when you can actually see that their behavior or remarks leads one to believe that their actions leads to what anything that you could call stupidity. But the minute you call someone something at this level, where you say essentially they are consistent in their arrogance, because that's how cockroaches behave. Just watch what a cockroach does when it's in your house. Creates a level of fear, and it consistently repeats and manifests itself, even with the highest level of cleansing material that you can use to get rid of a cockroach. It doesn't change its behavior. It behaves, someone may say it behaves like a pig, if such a word is allowed to be used. And so you almost want to try and shift the dialogue that politicians have in political speech and leaders have, shift the dialogue from insults, derogatory terms, towards constructive engagement. That can be political speech, but doesn't have to actually degrade a person's dignity. And the at issue is the dignity of a person.
Okay, so I mean, if you reflect in terms of your work as someone who's involved in reputation management, have there been other pronouncements in the past, A, in Parliament, B, outside of Parliament, by political leaders against others, where they haven't just said, I don't like what you're doing, they've mocked them, they've used lousy, nasty language to demean them very, very publicly, even though they may shake hands outside. I mean, so can you remember, and if so, what has happened to them?
Yeah, so I won't go that far. I will take it to an incident that we recall, a popular incident where I think an EFF, a member of parliament, said to someone, this is not the perfect wedding. And that tells you, even you were mocking Boy Mamabolo, I think, at the time, because he was wearing a particular type of a suit. And I think it was Mbuseni Ndlozi, former EFF MP, who actually said this is not a perfect wedding, based on what he was looking like, what he dressed like. In that sense, you wouldn't say this is, derogatory. It's done in a humorous way, and that's the tone that it takes. But the minute it borders on racism, sexism, there was one where an MP was referred to as something like if it's not garlic, but it's something like because of how the hairstyle looked, and it was brownish, and somebody used a word that sounds like I can't find the word of this specific plant, but actually they were actually associating the person with the plant. That for me would have been a derogatory nature. And unfortunately, not many people are willing to take it further in the public sphere, in the media landscape. Sorry to disturb you. When you look at McG and the case that's probably coming, McG and Minnie Dlamini, there you can see that some of the words were very harsh. We know that some apologies were issued, but I think she's pressing on with litigation, and that's where you can tell issues around sexism, a person's body parts, how they look, body shaming, those can amount to take you to a negative situation.
But of course, then people often will take them to court, even if they got an apology, because they want to. But often enough, it does cost too much money, too much time, and too much money. So how much of a deterrent is that? The fact that the way our law works, it does cost you too much money and too much time. So you just step away.
Yeah, I mean, there are civil claims. There was an incident or recent ruling and statements by a senior court in South Africa, in Gauteng especially, that said that there are too many cases that people start but they don't pursue, so they make threats, and so too many things are sitting on a court roll that are never going to be pursued, and therefore they said we must try to deal with things in arbitration and talk behind the scenes before we go to the courts. But of course, for those who can't afford legal fees, it's difficult to go and pursue someone for insulting you, and often you kind of go, well, it may not happen. It doesn't mean that it's the right thing, and therefore that's where the judiciary should continue to play this role of keeping society in check, but keeping business and political leaders especially in check, so that they don't think they have an unlimited amount of airtime to dehumanize others without tangible consequences.
So I can't remember the actual phrases, but I think it was also someone who, I think from within the EFF, who had sort of insulted the president, Ramaphosa. There was I think his nose, perhaps. There was another that insulted, and I'm not too sure where it's come from in terms of former President Zuma, in terms of his head. There were these type of insults, and of course they were not pursued legally, so maybe we tend to forget about them. But one is the law, but the other is the culture of insults to either make a point, but to disarm another person, especially in a public space, and therefore to demean them, to try and score points and win political victories. How prevalent is that? And B, should we do something about it? This is now outside of the law in terms of changing the culture of the way we engage.
Yeah, as society, I think we have a critical role to play in upholding some standards in terms of public communication, because if we don't embrace this ruling and start to enhance public communication, public engagement, we are creating problems, for example, in schools, where if I'm going to be insulting Ashraf each time I have a different opinion of him, or what about what he says, and I insult him, what do I create? What precedent do I set for the youngsters in a primary school, in high school, and at tertiary institutions about the type of language that they need to use to engage an opponent whenever they lose an argument? So there is a pressing need, I think, and a requirement for society and for the judiciary especially, to begin to press on so that public communication can actually enforce the law, so public communication can actually become elevated beyond the insults, but towards more constructive and robust engagement that helps shift the dialogue and the communication and improve matters instead of or discourse instead of simply pointing fingers and throwing things at each other.
Here's the last thing. You spoke about the cockroach, and interestingly enough, you also used the example of other countries like America, and earlier on I brought the example of the word cockroach and what it meant and how it incited a genocide in Rwanda, right? But don't comment about that, accepting this one year. Now, we know the courts ruled otherwise, right? But can the same argument not then be spoken about regarding kill the Boer, kill the farmer?
In the long run, I don't want to argue with the court about the ruling that the court made about kill the Boer, kill the farmer. What I do know, though, is that in political and societal rhetoric, kill the Boer, kill the farmer doesn't seem to add any value in a dialogue or in improving society. And therefore, one would argue that perhaps it's something to be reviewed. But is it wrong to say it? Is it wrong to chant in the context of the ruling? There's very little I can say or do. But as a principle, and as I would want to argue that as an ethical issue of not inciting unnecessary tension, I would not sing that at someone's house when I go to visit them and they were not African and black, they were white. I was not going to kill the Boer, kill the farmer, because of where it would go.
All right. So if you in your space as a reputation management practitioner, you wouldn't advise anyone to say that. You're saying it's outlived its purpose. Never mind what the law says. Yeah. Okay.
Undoubtedly.
Fascinating. Tsepo Matseba, the Managing Director of Reputation First. Thank you for that insight. And by the way, we'll have all those podcasts of that and everything else we've done on the show today up, as a podcast. How do you get it? Go to the website, safm.co.za. That's one option. The other one, it gets tweeted out by Vusani, our social media producer. We'll do it very quickly, so you can check it out on Twitter and on Facebook, and then you can share that and listen to it over supper with your friends, no matter where they are in the world, in the country. It's all available. So that can be the basis of your WhatsApp communication. Say, come on, did you see what so-and-so said here on the National Pulse? Did you hear what he said? Think about it. More to come about who said whatever, and we'll hear about Free SA and their thoughts on another big issue right after this.
The Morning Brief.
It's a truly disturbing video. It raises a lot of questions about why a parent and any adult caregiver, someone looking after a child, would expose a child to that situation. This happened in New Clare, out in Joburg. Is this something that we believe could be happening in contexts where drug use and abuse is rife and rampant?
Definitely. I think where there's normalized drug use, like I said, then we don't see anything wrong with it even being done with children, right? And you can imagine when that space is like that, what else that can harm children happens. There could be sexual exploitation, there could be physical abuse. There's a lot of violations.
That's Fina Kodisang, who is the CEO of Soul City.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, and of course we'll take your calls from around 22, quarter to 6, all the way to the top of the hour, in terms of calls, in terms of WhatsApp comments as well, right? Now, let's talk about this. The Foundation for the Rights of Expression and Equality, which is Free SA, right? They've announced a nationwide campaign aimed at halting the Public Service Insourcing Bill. Now, why? Well, according to them, they say if the proposed bill is, or the proposed law is then passed, or bill as a law will be passed, it will inflate the wage bill, devastate small businesses, and derail already strained public services. So let's truly understand it. Is there a plus and an upside or a downside to the issue of the Public Service Insourcing Bill or Act when it then does get enacted? Paul Maritz with me, Director at Free SA. Paul, appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Hi, Ashraf. Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to speaking about this very important issue.
All right. First of all, let's set the context for us in terms of, help us understand what is the Public Service Insourcing Bill in terms of the practical expression of it.
Okay, sure. So any parliamentarian can propose a bill which is then discussed, and if it passes, it becomes a law in South Africa if the president signs it. So the EFF have proposed Bill 19 of 2025, the insourcing bill. And here they propose a return to insourcing, and you should understand that as going away from the practice of outsourcing, which we're doing for a lot of things that a State Department typically needs. Now, just to clearly point out, insourcing is not a new issue. During, for instance, the Fees Must Fall protests of 2015 and 16, this was also an issue that was a very hot topic. The idea is that where State Departments typically outsource, so they'll have an external cleaning company, an external catering company, an external IT security company, an audit company, and so forth. What this bill is proposing is that we remove that practice and that we insource all of those people. Okay. Now we can get into the details of that, but we believe this to be essentially detrimental.
Okay, and to confirm, that we're referring to state institutions only, right? I mean, this doesn't apply to anybody else, yeah?
Well, I mean, yes, but because very particularly the reference in this case is to national departments. It'll be very difficult for a bill to sort of govern the way that a private company works. We have to remember that we have a very bloated government. So in South Africa already, we're spending more than 10% of our gross domestic product on this national wage bill. So even though it is just state departments, it still represents a mass amount of money spent in South Africa.
All right, so here's the narrative to say, well, you know what, we don't want outsourcing, we're for insourcing, because the problem with outsourcing, you have people who are working full-time for a department or a section, and what are they doing? They're simply outsourcing others to do the work for them, and they're paying them, and that just increases the wage bill or the cost to companies or to organizations. So in this case, obviously insourcing is much better. So how would you argue against that?
Well, I think there are various reasons. When we speak about organs of state, we have to remember that we always have to be vigilant against something like centralization. So centralization of powers, giving the state so much power that it essentially becomes too powerful. We have this idea of a balance of powers. And what we're seeing is someone like an external auditing company. Those are fresh eyes that don't get their bonus from this particular state organ. And the moment that we insource something like audit or like IT security, we have this safeguard that is essentially removed. Now, we know from the ideological documents produced particularly by the EFF, but by various parties in South Africa, that this centralization is something that they deem to be a good idea. But we've also seen what happens when a state centralizes and then essentially insources to the max. Make sure that no SMME, even a bigger external company, gets involved in these state organs. Instead, they want everything to happen internally, and that essentially, Ashraf, means more control for the minister, more control for the state, and this is a state that's already struggling, as all of us know, as all of us feel on our bodies daily.
So in fact, what you're saying, a state who's being irresponsible, and I'm using the word with inverted commas because they're unable to deliver on services, will now be given more tasks to do work that they can't comply with. They can't complete.
Exactly. So you're already struggling with basic things like, for instance, keeping the lights on, like, for instance, keeping people safe. And now more complex tasks, or not even more complex tasks, but essentially more tasks are being put onto this plate. We think that something like catering gives a great opportunity for a small company to enter into the business sector in South Africa. But we also think that something like audit, that's a very important thing that needs specialized knowledge, and that should never be insourced. We want external companies who report to their own directors, who this is a safeguard that protects us as South Africans, and we never ever want this to be removed.
I mean, your gist of your argument is it'll inflate the wage bill, devastate small businesses, derail already strained public services. Now, the flip side of that is that notwithstanding what you said earlier on about the state's ability to do its job, right, is that there's been such argument and debate around, corruption and just overinflated cost paid to, consultants and others. Wouldn't this then plug that hole? That means that, in fact, whoever's employed to do the job must actually up their game. So, in fact, it will not inflate the wage bill. It will keep it at lower levels, and it will ensure or demand greater efficiency from those who work in those organizations.
Yeah, so I think that's a typical argument that we'd hear in favor of insourcing, but there are various problems with that logic. And I would say first and foremost, I think the fact that you're an external vendor, that keeps you on your toes because you can very easily be removed. The moment that you're insourced and you have a permanent contract, you're a government official, government employee, it's very difficult to get rid of you, even when you're corrupt, even when you're not delivering the services that you should. If an external auditing company doesn't do its job, that's it. It's very easily removed and it's gone, and we get someone in who can do the job. The same for a basic service like a catering company or a cleaning company. If you don't do what's expected of you, we get rid of you. We can't do that when someone's insourced, first and foremost because their family has now become dependent of this job, but secondly because you have so many processes that you simply don't have with an external vendor. These things inflate costs, but secondly, thinking about something like cost to company, when you have an external vendor, you can negotiate. The moment that someone is internal, then all of a sudden that person becomes part of your structures. And so we think that this will most definitely, yes, increase the wage bill, but when compared, we think it will still be more expensive than this outsourcing practice. And it leads to various other problems, some of which we've discussed today, and some of which, I think we've seen in practice when insourcing becomes a massive national drive.
Okay, just the last thing before I let you go. What's your take then on what has been described as the gig economy, where in fact you don't hold on one job, but you sign up very deliberately and intentionally, like multiple 2-3 things, maybe even for different organizations, and effectively you consult with every one of them, and that becomes the norm.
Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting question. Thank you very much. I think that's a very important point of discussion. And I think young people getting into the job space understand that very well. I think previously we measured effectivity based on did you work your 40 hours this week? And we're going to have to change the way of thinking. We're already seeing this in Europe and the USA, China, more let's say, effective economies with regards to management. We need to work towards key performance indicators as the way that we measure if someone has done their job or not. So that means we no longer pay someone for their 40 hours. We pay someone for the particular task. You need to keep the website safe. If that takes you 60 hours a week, that's sincerely not our problem. Obviously, we need to be within the law. But if you take more time than you said, then that's the way it is. If it takes less, then great. The point is we pay you for a task and not for a particular time. That's a new way of thinking that we're going to have to adopt.
Well, maybe a bigger debate on that, the gig economy. Does it work or not? Paul Moritz, thanks for your time. Director at Free SA. Right, now it's Greg Host with the news headlines.
Quick look at the headlines. Police are looking for a man who allegedly shot and killed his wife and ex-girlfriend at Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape. Social justice movement Not My Name International has expressed concern over the escalating reports of bullying at a number of schools, and the US Coast Guard has released a damning report on the deadly implosion of the Titan submersible while it was taking paying customers on a visit to the wreck of the Titanic in 2023. More on those stories and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We start with
right. Maybe let's see if we can get the traffic. If not, then we're going to get the traffic directs us to sport only. Yeah, let's get to sport. Vinyas, we're going to get to sport. All right.
Yeah. Well, let's start things off with football this hour, where the stage has been set for the 2025-26 Betway Premiership season, with all sights set on seeing which team will hit the ground running this weekend. 6 fixtures get the ball rolling on Saturday, including Chippa United hosting Mamelodi Sundowns, newbies Orbit College away to Amazulu, Richards Bay at home against Marumo Gallants, Magezi away to Polokwane City, and Orlando Pirates at home against Skukune United. Then Sunday sees 2 fixtures, with TS Galaxy hosting newly promoted Durban City and a much anticipated clash between Stellenbosch FC versus Kaizer Chiefs. Meanwhile, City coach Gavin Hunt is calling for patience as he works to mold the team into his vision. Elsewhere, Manchester United have put in a bid of around £73.8 million, which is around 1.7 billion rand, for RB Leipzig striker Benjamin Sesko. Now, the offer includes a guaranteed payment of around 65.2 million rand. That's 1.5 billion rand. However, Newcastle also want Sesko and have made a bid around the region of the 80 million euros, which is around 69.5 million pounds, as they continue negotiations with Leipzig. In cricket, newly appointed convener of selectors Patrick Marnie says that he's eager to continue the solid working relationship that he shares with Proteas head coach Shukri Conrad. Despite Conrad's past preference for handpicking his squads, Marnie insists that there's mutual respect and a shared vision. Now, the duo previously worked together at under-19 level, and the rapport is expected to anchor a more structured selection process as South Africa prepares for its upcoming white ball tour of Australia. Then in rugby, Bulls skills coach Kennedy Zimba says that they are looking to remain grounded. This is after 2 commanding wins to go top of the table. Now, following their 64-0 win over the Sharks, the 20 side has 10 points from 2 matches, edging the Lions on point difference. Now, the Bulls next face the Pumas, and Zimba warns that they'll bring a different kind of challenge, one that could test the depth and discipline of this star-studded squad. Then in tennis, Victoria Mbogo says that even though she knows it will be a tough task to beat Elena Rybakina, she has drawn lessons from her Washington defeat and knows what she must change to make sure the outcome of the Montreal match is different. So far, the 18-year-old has lost only 1 set in 5 matches played And this is en route to becoming the youngest semi-finalist at the Canadian Open since Belinda Bencic back in 2015. And Bako says that she'll definitely be using the home crowd to fuel her inner fire. Well, with that said, it is a wrap from my side. I'll have more tomorrow.
I just want to end with this because we never really spoke about it. You know, India drew that series against England the other day, the Test series.
Yes.
And they won that last test, the one that ensured the series was drawn. They won it by 6 runs. And for all the intents, I mean, I clearly didn't watch it live. I think the English had 6-7 wickets tumbling in that last 40, 50, 60 runs. But I believe it was an absolute thriller. And from every report I've seen, it's like, so who said Test cricket is dead? This was cricket at its very, very best. I did say, and I've said so, as much as I don't like it, that the reality is the shorter version is what now fuels and gives the energy to world cricket. That's true. But every once in a while you get this and then you're like, what a remarkable game of cricket.
Absolutely. I mean, over the years, and it has been said how a lot of people felt like Test cricket is just a waste of time. It takes too much time. And obviously we'd know that if you're a cricket enthusiast, you'd love Test cricket. But now it seems like there's some sort of excitement around that format, as much as obviously a lot of people would love T20 or ODI. But I'm loving how now people are starting to embrace Test cricket.
I mean, here's the bottom line. Are we the T20 champions? No. Are we the one-day cricket world champions? No. Are we the world Test champions? Yes.
I mean,
let's get our priorities right. But the bottom line to all of this is like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to play chess or do you want to play snakes and ladder? I mean, you can work out the logic in that.
With that said, ke nna Tumeng Kgabele, Modimo ke yo.
First Take SA on SAFM.
Our President Paul Biya has been in power since in the 1960s, where he was serving as the Secretary General at the presidency and then became the Prime Minister in 1975 and eventually the President in 1982. This guy is older than the atomic bomb. He's older than the space landing. He's older than the United Nations, the AU, and the UN all joined together. And he's older than everything else we know about the country's presidency.
First Take SA on SAFM. Weekdays, 5 to 6 a.m. This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All. We honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And of course, the facts and figures, as per Jimmy Moyaha, who hosts the SAFM Market Update. Jimmy, I can just tell you as we lead into your conversation, yesterday's chat you had with Adrian Saville around tariffs was just sheer magic. That's all I can tell you. Jimmy, you there? No, maybe Jimmy's not there. We've had some gremlins trying to fix that out and Phineas trying to sort it out. Let's see if we can cross to Jimmy as soon as possible. If not, we'll try and pick up on that in a moment.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That's Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, we'll try and connect with Jimmy Moya as soon as we can. Yes, further comments about the cockroach.
Hi, Ashraf. I hear what Tsepo, your guest, is saying. But do you honestly, or does he sincerely believe that Kenny meant that to when he was referring to Juju as a cockroach? Did he seriously mean that in his heart, or we are just connecting the dots? Hey, okay.
Well, you see, that's the point. What's the turn of phrase and what you actually mean? in your hearts? I mean, I know many people say, I'm going to bliksem you. Does that mean that you're really going to bliksem them or what? As an example. And there's more.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Khotson, Pretoria. While you are at it, this issue of cockroaches, I think Julius himself a few years ago once said in the press that Rupert called or labeled him as a irritating cockroach that needs to be doomed. I'm sitting here and wondering now, should we expect any more apologies from now on? I'm not sure. Afternoon.
Okay, don't expect. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, Ashraf, you are referring to Julius Malema when he was referring to service delivery by the ANC. He mentioned that there are potholes on the roads the size of the nose of Ramaphosa. Hey, politics, eh?
You say, but that's the point. Isn't that exactly the point? Where does it start? Where does it stop? By the way, I believe that Julius Malema was nominated to be the chair of that ad hoc committee into the allegations made by Mkonazi, and he turned it down. It's done by the MK party, by the way. Interesting thoughts there. Kenny saying, Ashraf, a greeting, sir. I want to support the union guy when he says where there is illegal mining, crime of rape and murder increase. Rit Valley or Valley 4 in Mogadi City is the place of illegal mining where Kagiso police work and escort illegal mining groups daily. We invited the media to take photos and videos of these evil police, but they are afraid to come here. South Africa. Okay, here's another. On the conversation we had earlier, remember that the young girl? Yeah?
Hi, Ashraf. I think, if this wouldn't have been blown out of proportion by the media, its media and the marches and so forth, if the principal just went for a DNA test from the first onset when he was asked.
Well, I mean, should it, you see, it's an interesting one. If you get told that you've got to come for a test because of certain crime, yes, if you're innocent, you would go. But on the other hand, if you're that innocent, your first thing is like, for what? Why would I need to do that? I've done nothing. Why? I mean, is there any evidence that led someone to believe that that person or a person did so? So sometimes turning down a test doesn't necessarily mean that you're guilty or you're hiding something. You're just like, I don't want to. Why?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, in this case of Kwekwe and this AfriForum principal, I blame the politicians, because the politicians, they ran with the story because they wanted to have political mileage out of it without making sure whether what was said was the correct thing or was it proven. Because even the doctor who examined the child said they did not discover any traces of rape in the child. Now, the politicians are the ones who are feeding people wrong things, and then people will run after the politicians. People must be careful. This is a lesson. I thank you.
Well, look, one thing I know, and this is not just me as the talk shows, but me as a communicator in other spaces, moderating, public speaking, wherever you go, there's too many political figures from political parties. Their entire focus is to take pot shots at the other parties as a way of growing their party.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Okay, let's do that. So that point's made. In fact, let's get to a call. We go to the Eastern Cape. Pumzila, you've got a thought. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
Ashraf, I got worried today when I was listening to Julius Malema, the cult of the EFF. The ad hoc committee to deal with the security issue is actually existing because of a resolution of the National Assembly. Now, he comes up today on a point that he's got a problem with the ANC having chairpersonship of that ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
Now, to me, it's showing once again that the guy is not very serious, because to me, it's not relevant who is the chairperson. It seems to me that he wanted to use that opportunity to shine himself in the process of hearings that will be taking place. And for goodness sake, we are dealing in fact with a serious matter here. It's very childish of him to complain about the chairpersonship being given to the ANC.
And then, by the way, he turned down the position himself. He was offered, he was nominated, in fact, today. Malema, as the chairperson, he turned it down.
Yes, but Equad has got a problem. Who is this person that must be the chairperson for him to be satisfied with, you know?
Okay.
I don't understand him at all, you know? And the solution is the elected chairperson, Comrade Lekanyana, must continue with the good work. And we as South Africans definitely are looking forward on the release of the terms of reference by Friday, the draft terms of reference. With that having released, I appeal and implore them to expeditiously deal with the matter because it's a serious matter. Thank you very much.
Point made. Thanks for that, Pumzile. Very clear, direct, to the point. That's what you want ideally, right? There's more to come. By the way, just before we get to some of the others too, and feel free to raise any issues that you believe that you want to get off your chest, because it is the national pulse. You reflect that pulse. So the electricity minister, Ramakgopa, said that technical challenges at the Matimba power station in Lephalale, Limpopo, were responsible for the last 2 bouts of load shedding. That's one bit of news. The other, and this is interesting, a research report commissioned by the Localization Support Fund. So just keep in mind, Localization Support has revealed that the online Chinese retailers collectively achieved approximately 7.3 billion rands in sales from South African consumers. The argument is, that local, proudly South African, buy local. But the point is, these are now online operators who are taking a huge chunk of the South African business away from them. There's more on that. I wonder what you make of that, right? What do you make of diamonds?
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners. This is Nati from Cape Town. Gwede Mantashe should not complain about the diamonds and stuff. If ever they want the diamonds, they should just go to Paul Mashatile. He has all the diamonds there. Thank you.
Got that. By the way, this one is another puzzling one. Petrol prices are going to go down by 28 cents a litre. That's the good news. Diesel prices going up by 63 and 65 cents a litre. Have you ever seen such a difference? Teach me something I don't know.
Good afternoon, Azra. This is Patrick from Soweto. Azra, regarding the Afrikaner, this AfriForum, it's a problem in our country. It's where we are because of this AfriForum. Our tariff has been escalated because of this AfriForum. Shame on you, AfriForum. Shame on you. Thank you, Patrick in Soweto.
Okay, I hear you, and I tell you what, many people believe that. I mean, I think that what they did was wrong, but just separate the two, the AfriForum position regarding the farmers in the USA versus a legal challenge to defend the person who was not guilty. I mean, can you separate the two? Can you?
Good afternoon, Mr. A. Mr. Panyaza Lesufi, he likes to be opposite of what the president and the whole of South Africa is actually doing. He was speaking out against the GNU. Now he's speaking out against what is happening in the United States. You can't say, okay, Gaza will do this for Gaza. Yes, we know that. We've already done that. South Africa has already done that. We're trying to mend ways with the United States. He comes out and is praising China, is saying, no, we'll always do with Gaza. Yes, we know we're doing that. The case is already there. So he likes to do opposite, and he's not going to suffer. He's a multimillionaire. The poor people are going to suffer on the farms in the Western Cape. Pastor, Cape Town.
Thank you. Is he a multi-millionaire? I didn't know that. I'm just saying I didn't know that. What about Trump? Is he a multi-millionaire?
Good day, Asha. I hope the people that phone in and run all over Trump and badmouth him realize that will reach him. And he will hear what the people of South Africa says about him. And we are only going to suffer more. We are not a big country. We are a small country. Please, they must think. Thank you.
But the problem is he was upset with us even when we said nothing about him. Just think about it. When we said nothing, he was already after us.
Ashraf, it's rather unfortunate what happened to Kwekwe as well as that headmaster. Lessons that should be learned here is that AfriForum completely mismanaged this case. This case, AfriForum would have had advanced knowledge that that man is actually innocent. Instead, they entered the scene very cocky and made it a headmaster versus majority of South Africans. Instead of them playing the PR role to bring this issue to the attention of South Africans, to say, actually, this man is being accused wrongfully. They didn't take that stance. They took a stance of, we are white, we will defend our own against majority of you, instead of trying to bridge the gap between that man and ordinary South Africans. So they won what they wanted, which is AfriForum, but it actually damaged that man, and they lost South Africans in that process.
Okay, got that. By the way, if you want to call in as a first-time caller, do let me know. Male, female, young, old, students, wherever you are. I certainly want to hear your voices too. 086 000 2032 to call in live. There's some interesting text comments that we've got the Twitter story. I also would not have gone for the test. What if the results were going to be manipulated after all this is South Africa? Well, I mean, I don't know. Why are you suggesting that every test that people take is manipulated? I mean, have you got evidence for that? I'm just saying, is it widespread? Former Minister Lindiwe Zulu was referred to as ginger by a fellow MP because of her hairstyle from Biza in Belgravia, East London. That was uncalled for. You see, I mean, think about it. What were the biggest insults you've heard meted out by a politician to another politician? Not by you and I, by one politician to another. And here's another. Interestingly, Barcelona is not run by your feelings. Your hatred for Trump is clouding your stupid judgment. Barcelona have a right to play wherever they want. That refers to the earlier comment I made that, the Barcelona president has said that he'd support playing La Liga games in the USA. Well, let me put it this way, just so that you know. Would I support La Liga games being played in South Africa? No. Would I support Barcelona playing in South Africa? Yes. League games in this country, it's a no-no. It's the way the system should work. You represent your country, you play for leagues in those games. So hopefully that will answer it. And by the way, it's not Barcelona's right to play where they want. If they sign with La Liga is to okay it, just so that you know. And there's more. Let's see. Ashraf, I'm surprised that AfriForum is still around. Okay, an interesting point. I thought they had left for America. Clearly they... AfriForum, DA, Freedom Front Plus and Solidarity should be in jail for the worsening trade relations with the USA. We could try charging them with espionage. They are spying for America by Tabang in Van der Bijl Park. I said, well, there's a couple more comments about that. If I can find it, I'm going to read them. Not quite now. As soon as I find, there's an interesting tweet by someone. I just escaped. The name escapes me for now. But when it comes, I will read it. Right.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Fuana from Durban. Ashraf, it's best to die standing than to live on your knees. They must forget this thing that we must go and bow to Trump. Who is Trump to South Africa? Does he even have a citizenship to South Africa? They must not come here and play. Trump is another president of another country. We are another country. Let him keep his USA. We will keep our South Africa. Even if we starve, we will starve with our South African sovereignty.
I'll be honest with you, I don't want to starve. I'm just saying, I don't want to. Here's the one. At least from Max du Preez, the journalist, right? Former editor, well, still is now, the Vrije Weekblad online just before the publication. And so he tweeted about this today, right, which I think is interesting. He said, what was it exactly that AfriForum and the Freedom Front lobbied Trump and MAGA, Make America Great Again, for so energetically for months? That Cyril should be banned from Disneyland? Can they explain the 10 to 15% tariff on several vicious dictatorships, while South Africa, a democracy and open society, however flawed, are punished with 30%? Okay, there we are. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I don't know why people normally attack AfriForum, because AfriForum has been representing also black people. I'll give you for instance, the case of Senzo Meyiwa. I think they were involved in the Senzo Meyiwa case, including others. and they also have black members. So I don't know why people they attack AfriForum left, right, and center. Thanks from Andile in Willowville, Eastern Cape.
But I mean, that's like saying one or two black people live in Orania, so it's all fine. I mean, seriously, AfriForum's clear agenda is that they protect Afrikaner interests. AfriForum, a forum for Afrikaners. That's my understanding. And everything they've done, by and large, has been that. Picking up on Max du Preez once again, because he's just made some interesting tweets, okay? He's like another one. Listen to this one. The national interest is the buzzword of 2025. It is not in the national interest to steal public money, issue corrupt tenders, destroy metros, towns, and criminally neglect public hospitals. Okay, you got that. Then he says, it is also not in the national interest to lobby Trump to punish all South Africans with sanctions. Max du Preez has certainly got me thinking today, I can tell you that now. We had an earlier chat about stolen artifacts. Remember France and Africa? Here we are.
About time, Ashraf, that Europeans bring back what they stole from Africa. They said they came to civilize us, but they took our artifacts. British Museum must bring back all the artifacts that belong to Africa. We are backward, so they must bring our stuff. Thank you.
Did I hear you right? We are backward, so they must bring our stuff? Not because it's ours, because we are backward?
Ashraf, we must remember the song that Julius Malema sings and the EFF sings. It's a struggle song. Being called a cockroach is personal. So there's a difference. And so the High Court ruling, or the court ruling, was correct. Who does Kenny Kunene think he is? Better? Teresa Cape Town.
Thanks for that, Teresa. Who does Kenny Kunene think he is? Well, I think he's struggling on more than one front. We know that, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Nice show as always. So, Ashraf, I think one must just be clear that the courts are not working on someone's feelings. You can't say someone is a cockroach, well, you know, it's a human being. But yes, you can say someone is an ex-convict if he's coming from jail. There's nothing wrong about it. And then if the court have ruled that kill the farmer, kill the Boer, it's legal in this country, then why is people coming with their feelings while the court have ruled? So we must just be clear that the courts are not working on someone's feeling. Thank you.
Well, I mean, listen, I agree with that. They have to be unemotional. Point made.
Good day, Ashraf. Let's see if Malema and his bodyguards survive. Maybe you can recall the spokesperson of the EFF once the case is concluded, and maybe we can hear if they will still be singing the same song. If the courts find Mr. Malema guilty. Thabo in Mpumalanga, White River.
Thabo in White River. Thabo, you look like you're underground, like in a submarine or something. That sound. Oh my goodness.
Hi, Ashraf. Hope you're well, my good friend Errol from Durban. You know, A.B. de Villiers is playing such good cricket. I reckon he could play for the Proteas, especially in the 2020. I mean, in the Legends, he knocked out, I think he scored 3 centuries, and in the final one, he made 126 or something in about 60 balls. And this is off some fine bowling. I mean, the Legends have some good bowlers, but he must be in his 40s now. It would be great if he could play for us in next year's 2020 World Cup. Errol, Durban.
Thanks for that, Errol. I wish I played that earlier on. You're spot on. I mean, I watched him. He's just absolute magic. He was brilliant, right? I mean, you have to wonder, like, why did he sort of retire too soon? Because he didn't want to travel too much or spend time with his family and then earn a lot of money with the IPL. But, you know, nothing compares. You can win an IPL local tournament. It can't compare in terms of global prestige. I mean, that is why, like Siya Kolisi and others, Francois Pienaar, I'm talking about some of the fly-offs and the kickers, they will be immortal. And AB didn't. because he played the other role. In terms of his brilliance, I completely concur with you. Listen, let me stop. Let me end with this. I said this. I said this yesterday. In fact, I tweeted about it, and I thought I'll repeat it. I said, what comes naturally to you does not come naturally to me. And what comes naturally to me does not come naturally to you. Embrace mutual empathy in understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I thought I'll just repeat that as we end the show here for today on the National Pulse. We'll do it again tomorrow. Here's Greg with the news.
For alleged double killer and a concern over rise in bullying cases. Good evening. Police are looking for a man who allegedly shot and killed his wife and his ex-girlfriend at Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape. Police spokesperson Nobantu Gantana says they're investigating 2 cases of